as I type in the words summoning insight and then put in a Twitch link and then press enter, that means that it's summoning insight time. See, subtle segue / clue as to what's happening right now. Okay, obviously we are back. I will say this week will actually be a bit of a lighter week in terms of like how many topics there are to discuss. Because first of all, we basically can't discuss LEC because LEC bizarrely this week takes place on Monday and Tuesday, and today is Monday, so we haven't watched the games yet. And then also there's a really weird thing where after this week, there's an entire week almost off just because of the timing of like, it's not this weekend. So it's like, basically, we'll talk about LEC next week's episode, and I guess that'll be like a mixture of end of the regular split and go into the playoffs aspect. So, and even then, by the way, there isn't that much in terms of other regions. Like LTA has been pretty light. It's just those first series in the lower bracket. LPL and LCK, there's some meat there. We can get into that. I'm trying to think. I tell you what we can actually discuss. I know what we'll do at the outset. Before we jump into the games and the specifics and all that and pick up the narrative threads, etc. Actually, I'll tell you something that's a rare example of where we can discuss something where it doesn't have to be any flame, it doesn't have to be any criticism, is you might have seen that the Esports Awards did like a bunch of awards for the decade. Now, listen, that's already a little bit fraught because like they are essentially not doing a traditional decade of like, you know, the 2000s, the 2010s, what they're doing is they're doing from like this year, 10 years back. And by the way, I'm not even sure they even ran in 2015. I think they began in 2016. So I guess their logic is at the end of this year, it's been a decade. It's a decade counting from like 2016 to the end of this year, basically. So in doing so, they've done a bunch of awards that are like, broadcast. So if you don't know, for example, like broadcast start of the decade was like Shocks, I believe, or Host or whatever. Like she won that one. By the way, that's quite obvious. If you don't know, she'd already won that award something like 3 times before. I will say she did last year when she launched her own awards, go out of her way to say publicly that she'd asked not to be nominated for the Esports Awards, which one, as I said in my Cradle video, does imply you think there's something wrong with it or you don't want to be associated with it. And 2, just seems a bit rich when you then turn around and go, but thanks for calling me the broadcast decade. Which is it? Are you not accepting it or are you accepting it? You know, I'm just saying, which is it? So that's a bit off. But the key thing here, Yamato, is, as I said, aside from that tiny little bit of flame that leaked out there, I don't actually have any flame for this, mate, because they've actually done a fairly good job. Like the 2 League of Legends ones, people will be interested in. The Shocks one's a fairly obvious one. I don't even know, by the way. For League, no one else would even be in the fucking conversation, would they? Like Dash wasn't around long enough. Before that, what people like Quickshot, I guess, sort of vaguely go into that. The problem is then he did a lot of casting and other things too. So that one's obvious. And believe it or not, Yamato, buckle up, T1 fans who are all ready to type your really low IQ comments in the YouTube channel. Because if you don't know, by the way, Yamato, do you want to know how fucking actually broken T1 fans are now? Do you know what the go-to actual complaint now, Yamato, is? It's not like we're mean to T1, you know, we're haters. The go-to complaint now might be the stupidest complaint I've ever seen. The complaint is, you're just talking about T1 every week. It's a fucking weekly review show of all the major regions in League of Legends, you mad fuck. By the way, do you want to know something, boys? Spoiler, I'll tell you how we can stop talking about T1 forever. T1 ever become some like fucking freaks level team who's at the bottom of that shit group and just, yeah, then guess what we won't talk about? Think how rarely we talk about DRX on this show. Again, the problem here, you cretins, is they're one of the most relevant teams in the fucking game. In fact, the entire episode they complained about that on you, Mark. Like, why did you talk about T1 all the time? That was the episode where we talked about how they could win worlds, for fuck's sake. I think that'd make them pretty relevant to the convo. So anyway, that's all to say the following, Yamato. They're obviously used to, because there's also, by the way, they give away that T1 fans are all really new to being even T1 fans. They weren't there at the original Faker run. It's because they all get super butthurt when you say something like, you know, the 2024 lineup one isn't the best team to ever play League. Like, that's such a noob reaction to get really offended by that. Because I don't know anyone, even the people who say they would be, would start like, well, you know, because of the championship, they'd all be like quite reasonable. So anyway, that's all to say, Yamato. There is one award that I totally agree with that Faker just won, which is Faker won Player of the Decade. Now, it isn't, by the way, League of Legends. It's Esports Player of the Decade. But do you know what? And this is going to blow your mind, fans, because I actually know what I'm talking about. I was there. I was there, Gandalf. I was there when he should have thrown that ring into the fucking Mount Doom. So anyway, the point is, Yamato, even, believe it or not, I'm not even going to do an angle of like, but that's just like, no, actually, if you look at all esports games, Here's the difference. There are people from other games that can be in this conversation. Simple from Counter-Strike's an obvious one. He's been player of the year 3 times if people don't know. And he's been just an amazing body of work. You can obviously put people, there's a few people from Dota you could probably put in there, maybe Samail or Miracle or something like that. Some sick player from Dota. For League themselves, I mean, technically, you could put people like Chovy in for their body of work. They just wouldn't have the accomplishments. But the difference is, I actually think that is actually probably one of the most deserved awards Faker can win. Because if you ever really look, if you ask someone like me who's watched all of esports history in the big games, you notice I don't put a lot of modern day people next to Faker, actually. I actually, outside of League, a lot of them are going to be people who wouldn't even be covered by this decade. It'd be like Flash from StarCraft. StarCraft Brood War was before this decade. So he wouldn't even be in here. If you want to go like Rafa from Quake, I mean, he had a bit of Quake Champions, but a lot of that, again, is like end of the 2000s, early 2010s. So actually, believe it or not, I think that is probably one of the most deserved awards Faker can win, actually. If you had to say who was the best esports player, because remember, 2015 would catch like the end of what... I will say that part. The one flaw is this, Yamato, is how does the decade part work? Because if you didn't have an award in 2015, how can it start in 2015? And if it doesn't start in 2015, we are actually only counting 2016 championship to now. So we're counting 3 of the world championships. But even so, 3's more than anyone else won. It's just I noticed there was some scuff shit there. Some people say they won 4. And it's like, it depends on what the year. And this is why the decade part gets complicated. But anyway, to bring it all back, what are your thoughts on this? Faker, basically esports player of the decade, just the best player in the last 10 years of esports. Fair award?
I think so. I think also just the timing of League's popularity, right, over the last 10 years.
Oh, sure, yeah.
I think that's so crucial in a conversation like that, because I think in terms of the longevity of other esports, like CS, sure, but it's like the games have changed. We went from Go to 2, and you know the era shifted too. I think the fact that League has been so popular for such a long time, and it's been like the tournaments in terms of like the size of the scope of the World Championship is. As like also the timing of it is also really neat because it's like 2015 Faker, 2016 Faker, 2017 Faker, and then there's like the whole in between. I think if there was a world where T1 didn't make the same level of a resurgence, then I think there would be just other names in the conversation from League, like Chovy, as you mentioned, or like even like a player like Knight, because these guys would be the ones to win the championships that Faker wouldn't.
They've got all the MVPs, all the shit, yeah, of course.
And in the end, it's like the fact that Faker managed to win Worlds so deep into his career and do it back to back, and also being in the finals, I think just makes him so untouchable. It's like the separation of time is so impressive, because it's like we were there when he was performing so good in the past, and that's why we also appreciate a player like Ruler or a player like Deft when they are managing to do shit really deep into their career, because it's just so unheard of in a game that is just changing all the time. It's like there's some OGs, that there's a crew of OGs that just are untouchable, because everything else around them has changed, whether it's the game, the players, the coaches, the names of teams even, but they stick around. But Faker has done it better than anybody. And I don't know super much about other esports, but hearing you say the same in terms of the context of CS and so forth, like I just have to follow suit then, because in the end, I think the popularity and the scope of the game, I think also is super important, because someone's gonna tell me like there's a Bloodline Champions Legend or some game that is like obscure, like it doesn't really matter too, because in the end, like it needs to be like a really, really big title.
No, the key thing as well is like essentially like most of Faker's career, he's just got it all, mate. Here's the thing, if we're counting that decade, look, we are cutting off a couple of his absolute best peak years, like 2013, 2014, maybe even 2015. But you've still got enough there. You've still got a couple of like prime years, 2016, 2017. Then you've got, I agree, it's a bit, I'll tell you what we should do. Last week, because we're going to do it again this week, but in a different way. Last week we did that discussion about BDD and Showmaker, and how they almost have like inverse careers. Like they both had like initially a lot of success, but then in the middle, the difference is BDD looked like he dipped a bit and just became like a very good middler, but not like, the best middler. Whereas Showmaker like maintained in the middle. He was like, people will forget this now, Yamato. People have short memories in esports. If you go back in time to 2021, all the conversations on all the shows, because it was a foregone conclusion Damwon was going to win everything, was are Showmaker and Canyon the best jungle mid players to ever play the game collectively, and maybe even apart? Because remember, if they were about to they were winning something like their 3rd LCK in a row, they were only like a game off winning the fucking MSI. Obviously, logically, if they'd have won that Worlds and had gone back to back, at this point in time, people did think this is like a Faker-esque career. This guy's going up. But the difference is, you saw in the years after that, it's what you call diminishing returns. Like, it just got worse for Showmaker. They became less relevant. BDD had sort of the opposite one. Like I say, in the middle, he had sort of the down, but then he's had like a resurgence now where he's mega. Faker had the really interesting one because his actually, in a weird way, is easier to follow the thread of, mate. He just starts super insanely good individually. For me, I always think the lost part, maybe I'll do an article about this, by the way, is actually the era when he doesn't win that many championships except LCK. It's like the sort of 2019 to 2021 period before you fully get all the, OGFK, Z or GK people come in, when they just brought in at the end. Because in that era, I always used to think that was actually the hardest era of Faker to analyse, because if you watched, he wasn't the best like individual mid laner in the game or like the most dominant carry, but he wasn't like this Faker now that's more like, the captain and has to like be pinched in the draft and has to be really like, that's basically now, this is why Faker in some ways is like an old man in League. Because if you know old man game in most sports, what that refers to is the idea that you like min-max your energy because you're not a young pop, you can't run all the time. So if you ever see the classic like really all-time great players that are old man, I'll give you a fucking pull from the archives right now in football, Yamato. Do you remember the amazing attacking midfielder called Clarence Seedorf from the Netherlands? Do you remember this guy?
Of course.
Like, this was
I
a
didn't
guy
know Clarence, but when you said Seedorf, I was in the loop. I was like,
Mate,
Clarence,
if people
who?
don't know, this guy was still winning the Champions League, etc., like right near the end of his career, because he's like the ultimate example of this, who went from like physical specimen to like, you're never in the wrong place on the pitch, you never use too much, you don't try and do, 15 step overs and run around 4 people when there's no reason. You just wait till there's the one moment where you get an opening and you go through, you do the perfect, you veteran smart. That's what, to me, like Faker's career became now. But people do forget that part in the middle was also like fairly legit. Like if you remember, that was the era when I always used to think he wasn't the best player, but the genius of his career in the middle, that like 2019, is he used to just deny all the other Koreans the fucking title. Like people like my aforementioned BDD and Ruler, fucking Chovy and Viper, they were all like, right, it's my time to win, isn't it? And then Faker would just literally, wouldn't even be the best team. The finals would just happen. He'd just pop in. They'd be like, oh, I'm a bit nervous. And Faker would be like, I'll take that. Listen, I've got a bunch of these. I'll take that for now. You listen, you're going to get me back so hard in the future years. You're probably going to win loads of it. I'll take this one again. Listen, it's better if I take this all with me. It's like fucking foster gas. It's got safe kids, I've got a bunch of them back there. They used to just fucking take, like actually taking candy from a baby, just take championships from these motherfuckers, which I always thought was kind of a cool period, because actually he was like in the middle at that point, like he still had some game individually. Like he could do some cool players if you put on a mage, and he was still like a championship player type winner. But the difference is, if you go look at those squads, they're way more scuffed, mate. They are the squads that have like fucking Canna top lane, like fucking Teddy, ADC, like that's not the same. Like that's why I always thought T1 fans they revealed that they're really just Faker fans in this latter era, because what they ignored is to try and make it sound like Faker was still like the god carry for mid lane. By definition, you have to downplay Zeus and fucking Kumiushi, don't you? Or Carrier or something like that. You have to sort of make it like that's just him and fucking 4 bots, isn't it? It's like, not really. So actually, I think it's totally legit that he wins. Because as I say, the difference is there are other people who are truly great players. Like, here's the difference. Maybe Simple, like, individually was better because that was basically the prime of his career. But Simple doesn't have the same amount of accomplishments, by the way. Like, that's one of the things one of the things me and Dom concluded a couple of years, actually, even before Faker won these last Worlds, is the real thing that makes Faker sort of like very difficult to ever beat in a GOAT conversation is if you actually look at his whole career, he has both parts, mate. He has the insane individual level of play and years at the top. It doesn't have to be the whole time. 3 or 4 years is insane, but he was fucking unbelievable. And then he has it basically every accomplishment you could want in the game. Like he's just won 1 billion fucking LCK. I mean, the joke of his career, mate, it's like the Djokovic factor. It's like he also wins on all the courts. Like you can't even, the only angle you can really find to hit on Faker is the angle of like, but he didn't do what like BDD, he's not still trying to individually be the best. In fact, I would even say, I want to ask you about this actually. 1, what do you think of Faker's career progression? But 2, I have to say more and more the last few years, when I even look at some of these peers of his like this, who maintain the individual level, even when I watch rookie play, etc., I do actually think that at some point in his career, maybe he just didn't stress it because it's like a Korean thing. I do get the feeling that over the last few years, he has had some sort of like pressing wrist issue or some sort of a mechanical thing that has helped. Because to me, his like dips up and down don't just look like normal form. You know, you just play badly, you feel bad. It looks like there's a time in the season, every season, where he's like almost like his wrist gets worn out and he can't do all the crazy moves. And then if you notice, that's why we always say it's that like 2 to 3 weeks where you don't play before Worlds. Feels like it gives him the refresher. You know, he comes out of the fucking, he just comes out, it's like he's had a fucking sauna or something. He comes out, oh, fucking, I feel amazing. And then he's ready to play. And all he have, and remember, at Worlds, the beauty of Worlds is, realistically, you don't even have to be that good in the Swiss system now, mate. You just have to keep your shit together for 3BO5. If you can do 3BO5 in about 2 weeks, there you go, you can win Worlds. And I tell you what, no one's better at understanding the flow of how to peak and get your shit together and work yourself into form. He's the best of that, right? Do you think he has some sort of issue?
No, definitely. I think it reminds me of, like, you know, when you hear before the camp, before the big fight, he injures his knee, but he just just wants to win so badly, he doesn't care. And then you see like their stance is like a little bit different in the way that they stand. Because in the end, it's like I remember the era of like when Faker was performing at his individual best. Like he was streaming all the time. His stream was just perma on. He would scrim, do the streams, and he would just play an absurd amount of games. And I think that was what was just required of him to maintain such a high level performance naturally. But then just in conjunction with the periods where he actually actively got a break, you could clearly see like an improvement in performance, because for the longest time, always the summers were rough because they were post MSI and they always made deep runs in MSI. Even now, even though T1 were competitive, it's like now we can talk about it later. It's like how they dip in performance, but it was always kind of the same trend. Spring started very, very good because he has his Christmas break, December, takes it easy. Spring started always good. And then up to spring finals looked good. MSI, little break. And then all the way leading up to Worlds, there was always trouble. Whether it was when he needed to take like a longer break because of his injury and Poby came in, or even last year when they barely, like they lost against Damwon, like the Damwon that lost 3 back-to-back best of 3s at the World Championship to just let the Chinese teams qualify to the quarterfinals. Like they lost against that Damwon.
No one's been memory hold, mate. No one remembers that match. They remember that they almost lost to KT, but everyone's deleted the one where Damwon, I think they even 3-0'd Yamato. I think Damwon just like straight 3-0'd these motherfuckers.
I don't remember the scoreline. I think it was 3-2. I don't know what it was, but I just remember Showmaker LeBlanc in the final game. That was the decider, and Showmaker was popping off on his LB, and it kind of was like a return to form. Are you pulling it up? Is it 3-2 or was it 3-0?
I'm just looking it up now. Let me have a look.
I was in Texas watching that together with Dom, and Dom was beyond himself. I was sad about that one because I thought that KT and T1 were the two.
It was 3-2. You are right. It was a 3-2. Fair enough.
It was an ultra giga bang. I remember the LeBlanc from Showmaker. But just in conjunction with that, it's clear that something is like plaguing him. And usually when someone has an injury, they kind of figure out ways to still be intact and active.
Yes.
I think the main thing is in the transition. It's like 21, 22. I think the key thing that kind of shifted how LCK went was also the improvement of Chovy. Because I remember that final that they won in summer in 2022, that was like the first revelation of Chovy actively playing like a game where he was in tune with all the game ideas.
Yeah.
It's like he could play the game through other people. The fact that Chovy managed to do that evolution, it was very clear that he took inspiration from what Faker did.
You know, this is actually, people don't know, just around this time, like 2020, 21, was actually when LS used to do like analysis still on like LCK. And if people don't know, I remember when especially it was when he was in DRX, mate. When Chovy was in DRX, LS once told a story on stream, like as in on the LCK broadcast, that was something along the lines of that supposedly within DRX, they even said that Chovy like barely commed, mate. Like for real, it's like he was playing a solo queue game and he for real was like the mid laner that just farms the side lane and doesn't join the fight or whatever. Like that, I know what you mean. If that's true, and to be fair, that does look like what it looked like how he played back then. He was just like a god of fucking CSing, wasn't he? Like, but if you look, I know what you mean. Almost every year after that, it's why also I hate the T1 fans that like refuse to let people, in the same way as Faker can never get worse, Chovy and Knight are never allowed to get better. Like they're never allowed to improve and overcome their issues. Because I do think if you look, like Chovy year on year, mate, looks like he did add all these different elements, right, and become a different player by the end, right?
And the reason I wanted to highlight that was because like Faker had already changed the player he was. in
Yes.
21 and 22,
Yes.
and he had an advantage. It was like back then, the whole conversation about T1 when they had like that perfect split in spring 2022. The whole conversation was about, oh damn, these guys are just the owner Faker mid jungle duo when they were playing like Gragas Lee Sin, just dominating the map.
Yeah.
It's like Faker was already shifting his playstyle away from the lane dominant player, and I think that he was just ahead of the curve in making that adaptation. And then eventually Chovy caught up, and I think that the players around him also caught up because BDD also has adopted this kind of identity. The busyness of a Chovy and a BDD is so different if you compare it to how they played in the past. Obviously, there's been some like changes in terms of how the mid wave functions. That gives you more opportunities, but there's a clear inspiration. And I think the biggest challenge for Faker nowadays is the fact that now he has these wicked players within the league that are capable of doing both at the same time.
Oh.
Because if you look at, for example, the Rise game that Chovy just played, it's like, oh, he has crazy CS numbers against Zeka, is ahead in the lane, hovers to each play, roams onto the side, and is just there for anything that Canyon wants to do in the game. And in the past, it was like, oh, Chovy had those CS numbers, but he didn't have that impact. And I think that's just the biggest challenge. Like players are just too complete nowadays, and I think that the lack of mechanical skill and the laning from Faker is sometimes like a big hole for them in terms of their matches, especially in the LCK.
By the way, I've got a couple of angles on that. Like, one is this is also why it's funny. One of the things I found really interesting about following sports and esports is actually when someone tells you their opinions, you can almost trace back from their opinions, like how much of the game they've watched and who they're a fan of, etc. And so unfortunately, one of the things that also gives away to me that you don't actually know what Faker did in the early part of his career. You just looked on Leaguepedia, or you looked on like, the YouTube video of them winning worlds or something, is when people like mischaracterize the players and have a really weird sense for them. Because I'll give you an example in sports that reminds me of this. In the same way as there's people, like the real reason why we all think you're a noob if you think Faker hard carries the last few years. It's because it's like, bro, you don't know what hard carrying Faker's like. I'll take you back in a time machine 10 or 13 years and I'll show you some unbelievable games, mate. That'll melt you. Essentially, there are games where, for real, a lot of us speculate like he is the reason like Riot had to fucking nerf Deathfire Grasp, for example, like shit like that. Like, or like if you think about like LeBlanc, bro, LeBlanc is still played in the modern day, but it's like the most nerfed shit of all time. Like, you should see the shit that champion used to be able to do back in the day when it had the silence and stuff, mate. Like that, like people like him were an absolute demon on that shit. Like he was really like getting shit banned. I'll give people an example, right? Which is, people might know I'm a Ronaldo fan, Cristiano Ronaldo. And a lot of the Messi fans have this classic way they try to downplay Ronaldo, right? Which they don't know Yamato. Makes them look like complete noobs and just shows they're all 16 and they never watched him like play. I mean, believe me, he played for like 20 plus years. Like the reason I know they didn't watch that part of his career is because they do that thing where they go, all he does is just hang around the box and just get tap-ins and penalties. And it's like, oh, you've given it away. You only watched the last like, sort of 8-9 years of his career. Because if you don't know, Ronaldo actually had like quite a bad knee injury, I think it was, in like 2014 or something. And after that, basically, he had to change his game. This is why I'm bringing up this point. And basically, if you don't know, before that, he really did start as actually like a left winger, even though, by the way, he's not like a left-footed player. He started as a left winger, and then what happened was, when he came to Real Madrid, Jose Mourinho was like testing him as a striker and using him, but he was like sort of, he had like a more moving role. And when he had this injury, he just couldn't run 24/7 and do all those dribbles. So what he did is, he stopped being the guy that did a million step overs and tried to skin two people and then score the top corner. He just basically became like a fucking number 9. They just put him up front all the time. And what they understood was this concept, which is, if you can't run 24/7 because your knee's not as good, just hang around the box and pick your moments. Like, pick the moment when you're going to go active. And so, even though there's a grain of truth in what they're saying, it gives away that they don't know the story of how it happened, what the progression was through, etc. Because I do think that's a good example of what you're saying. Essentially, it's funny. We've made this point in the past about junglers, right? Classically, junglers the role that does this the most. Have you noticed how all the great junglers start as like, they may as well be like a 15-year-old Lee Sin player who's just ganking all over the map everywhere. And then by they've played 10 years, if they're still a great jungler, they're all the fucking Maokai, Sejuani, like, I'll come when it makes sense. I'm looking for the angles here. It's no to the top lane for now. I'm going to check out bot lane. I'm going to sell. You become like the objective player, the macro player. You change your whole profile and you don't even try and compete with it. It's actually why, by the way, I agree, Canyon probably is the GOAT jungler. He can just do both, me. He never got this memo memo I just said about how you've got to transition. He just does whatever he wants still. He's still cracked out of his mind. It's also why I do hope Tarzan turns out to be legit. He also looks like he has unbelievable longevity. He's still mega hands, etc. But in general, there's that trend. Well, similarly, I do feel like there are so many players where they get to the latter part of their career, and because they can't essentially go head to head like athletically and just beat everyone, they don't even try to do that. They just start trying to win with their mind. They're just trying to look for the right point in the game, or they start to even understand bigger fundamentals, bro. Like they start to know more about like how the draft works or what their comp is and when the win conditions are and something. They play to that, instead of just trying to just always win in CS, always solo kill no matter what, always trying to push your lane out. You can see like actually how these people master the game. It's actually why it's sad to me when people like the Perkses of the world, that's all they're doing at the end. There's like no actual game left. There's no fucking laning left. There's no like, you don't have a champion. You're just only trying to find some miracle macro play where you do the one time you go. That eventually does get too far. But I think Pake has struck the perfect balance, bro. Because there's still times, in fact, people probably forget this now because they're not in great form. But like, there's times this year where Faker even like would have individual games where you were like, that's the game where he did just fucking lean forwards like the meme with the controller and start playing.
Yeah.
Well, you go back to like spring and winter, he had a couple of games he smurfed on people. He had to listen. The problem is he can't do it like 5 games in a row like Chovy and Knight can. It's understandable. It's what happens in your career, right?
And additionally, on top of that, it's like Fearless probably made his job so much more difficult.
Oh, true. Yeah.
Because it's like now it's at least. In the previous years, he could always like lean into 1, 2, 3. It was always like Orianna over Ari over something, and he leaned into that really, really hard. But now when he goes into the deep games, that's when you get like the truly, let's say, like poor performances from Fakers. Yes. Whether it's like he plays Hui for the first time in 2 years and it looks like wonky and it's all over the place. It's like he has the guts to do it, and he obviously has, probably the strongest resilience as a player within a game. Like if he makes a mistake, it's not you're not really like expected to go full tilt ever. He's going to always be in the game. But I think those are the moments where you realize like, he has limited amount of practice hours he can put in terms of how much effort he can put in at the same time. And then, he needs to be very selective about it. And in Fearless, that just makes the job so much more difficult. That's why in my mind, always it's like T1 versus GenG. There are drafts where T1 can be the best team in the world. But if you go further into a series, you're going to have problems. You're just going to have problems.
Yes. Oh, and I'll also add in as well, I do think that is one thing that has been a bit brutal, is if you ever watched those last few years, this is one area where it does play against that conspiracy theory some pleb fans have of like, Riot's just changing the game to make T1 good for Worlds. Look, I will say, they do suspiciously always do stuff like remove the mid-ADCs and the mid-assassins. It's true, that doesn't really play the Faker's favour. But I would argue, Fearless looks like we had this discussion last week, Fearless looks like it's made it way harder for Faker to win Worlds now. Because I'm with you, they not only had like a limited champion pool, and if you notice, they were the champions where they're always just left in the game because everyone plays one side of the Azir Corki. In fact, everyone plays all of them. You know what I mean? Like these are all the ones that all the mid laners play. But it also looked to me like actually T1 at the time was the most inappropriate team for Fearless because it looked like they'd actually designed every draft like a choose-your-own adventure, but the first page is always what champion does Faker play in this comp. So if he's playing Orianna, suddenly all the other picks make sense. If he's playing Azir, suddenly you get... The problem you have, like you're saying, is if you're in game 4 and you're super deep into the weeds of the picks and bans, and then the other guys picked like an Aurora at some point in the draft that you don't expect, like you shit out of luck. You can't do that style anymore. Like, you haven't got much left over to pick. Also, can you even make the comp work with what works against the, you know what I mean? Like, that's where I agree. I don't even think that's a case of like flame the players. I think everyone for years, I think people think it's just because of year 1 of Fearless. I think we're going to have those issues for years, boys. I don't know if anyone can actually be that good at that many champions and that many combinations. It's like that thing where, have you ever heard the famous thing where if you a sign that you don't know chess is when a pleb will go, there's only 64 squares, because there's something actually like millions of like possible moves, and essentially like there's board configurations people have never seen essentially in a pro match. So to me, that's what drafts like. I don't think people understand. They think you're only picking from these champions. It's like, no, it's like these champions into these other 8 champions with like 60 champions that go around them depending on what you pick. Like no human can hold that all in their brain. Like that's not possible. So I agree. I think they're in a way. That's why actually, for real, if they somehow miraculously won Worlds, not just the Doran factor, but I'll give him props for that. I would give Faker the ultimate props for this year's Worlds if he somehow won this one, bro. Because I agree with you. It's going to be nuts if you can win those Fearless drafts like deep into the playoffs of Worlds. And also, man, one thing we haven't even seen yet, we only saw a little bit at MSI, is I want to see when people have to do like the Game 5 pressure draft. Because I think some of those are nuts and fearless, mate. Like, sometimes for real, you end up with drafts where it's like, I don't even know if you can pilot those champions. Like, has anyone ever played that comp before? You get some wacky comps, like, especially in the modern day when people do that shit, which I can't handle. They still do it. You know, where people insist on playing like the nerfed champion because they just think they're so good at it. And it's like, it's nerfed. Why are we picking it? When people do that, it just drives me crazy. But by the way, that is definitely a Chovy classic. Chovy loves it when you nerf a Rise, and he's like, but I still like Rise. It's like, why? Just play it when it's fucking OP or whatever. There is that. Oh yeah, I had one other thing. Yeah, go on.
Yeah, go ahead.
I was going to remind you of something because you actually stirred a core memory in me. This is also how old school we are, Yamato. To a modern fan, when you said about Faker streaming, that's totally normal. Of course, top players stream. It's how you make an income. Everyone has a Twitch account. We all have millions of followers, if you're a pro player, that is. What people won't know, Yamato, is for the first solid, like, I'm talking like 3-4 years of League of Legends, no Korean streamed. That was not a thing. They used to just play scrims. In fact, famously, if you remember, the thing that got Faker to stream was that partnership with Azubu. It was actually he streamed on Azubu first, if you remember, because they had all that money they were pumping into like league shit. And at the time, actually, when it was announced he was going to stream, that was like blowing people's minds. I remember the first streams had like insane numbers, mate. Like people, that was like melting people's brain that you could just watch Faker outside of like a pro match. Like we never saw it before. We take it for granted now. Like you can see everyone stream now, basically, but that actually was like an event back then. Do you remember?
Yeah. Like even I remember also when he like did the move over to Twitch. Like that was also such a big deal.
He got a
like,
bazillion followers, mate. Yeah.
There was like this whole drama about like them copyright striking like his league games as well. I remember that shit. Like because people were restreaming just
Faker.
like the spectate Faker, like that whole drama. Like and also I remember the whole the drama surrounding people just betting. You could bet on Faker's games, and he would just have. You know, the Faker solo queue experience was just the worst possible because it was just like everyone just wanted to be in those games and either troll him or fuck him up or like gank him. Like he played solo queue on the hardest difficulty possible. It was a good time. Like I remember a couple of teams. I remember I was watching like Someday. Like that was like a rare streamer that you could just find on Azubu as well. It was a different time altogether. I just wanted to reference back to the 2019 because I remember G2, of course, they won MSI and they made the finals, but every team was afraid of T1. Like it was the only team that could actually beat T1 was G2. The other teams couldn't. It's like you had the IG game where obviously there was like in that group stage at MSI where they won in 16 minutes or whatever it was because they played like Kale Taric, like Kale Sona, like I don't remember what the combo was, something wacky that came out of Europe and they decided to try to lock in. But even in that era, if something went a little bit different in terms of what the matchups were, maybe G2 was at the other side of the bracket, anything else, because FPX, apparently, they celebrated the same way G2 did when they got Team Liquid in the final instead of IG. FPX was like, yes, T1 has cooked us in scrims for the last 4 weeks. We had no chance. And we get to play against G2. We are so damn happy. And it's funny how like the butterfly effect still, there's like small elements that could have changed for G2. Maybe G2 played IG in the final. Maybe the whole story would have been different. And the same thing if T1 maybe didn't play against G2, played against an FPX in the final. I think T1 maybe could have won a Worlds back then too. But there's a lot of what ifs, There's a lot of what ifs that you can go back down in the memory lane. The additional thing I wanted to add, because you mentioned like how difficult it would be for Faker. I feel like the fearless being a thing has taken Chovy out of his shell that he always put himself in. I don't know if it's some PTSD from working with CV Max of just like playing the same champion over and over again and just doing it on repeat and just not being able to pivot mid-series. Because it's like Chovy for the longest time, whether it was his first best of 5 at Worlds when he played against IG, just playing tanks mid, when obviously his top laner just couldn't play the game at all, and he just kept playing Poppy and Sion. It's like, what the hell are you doing? You need to step up to the plate. Your top laner is getting massacred by the Shy. Or these, series like, for example, at Worlds most recently, when he keeps picking Ari when everyone else has moved on to Silas and Galio. And, in some cases it worked. At MSI, he was like pre-MSI, when he won the first one, it was like 5 games of Azir. That was one of the best series of all time in terms of his performances. Sure. Sometimes it works. That MSI too, everyone was target banning his Corki, Aurelion Sol, and he could just carry on those champions. But there were scenarios always when you go to the World Championship in terms of reading the energy of the series and being able to slam something that maybe he didn't practice as much because he had this fear of being less precise. Now with Fearless, he's kind of forced to be put in that position. And there's this looseness that I think Chovy always lacked. And I think this has just unleashed him to a whole nother level. Because even though there's cases where he's less precise, in terms of how he is as a player, as an impact player in a best of 5, I do think that the range now is just immaculate because now he's forced to play 5 different champions. And now we get those game 5s where he's just bomb, Aurora 1v9s it, you know? And I think Chovy's development, the implementation of Fearless is just a perfect thing for his career.
I also think as well, like you can just say he is just the best Aurora player, mate. There's something about that champion he's just keyed in on. He's so fucking good at it. I know what you mean though. Like the spread of champions, it's even this year. Like he started off still trying to make Ari work every fucking time he could get at the draft. Now, like he must be the ultimate coach's dream for that draft, mate. Like Kim must just be living a dream. He already has all these super giga mega players elsewhere, but then his middle and base key players, like we're talking for real players, like 8, 9 champions deep. Like yeah, and I agree with you as well. The cool thing is. I know what you mean. The problem in the past that Chovy used to have is like, it was predictable what he would pick. Now, his logic would be, if I execute correctly, I still win, which is probably true. But I think it's one of the areas in the game that I always think people miss is like, you don't have to make it hard for yourself though. You know what I mean? Like you can let the OP elements of the game mean that if in the draft, yeah, you could pick this champion, you're amazing. It's like the Faker picking a LeBlanc all those years back at MSI. I don't say it's wrong, right? But if you had have picked anything else, then what they were planning wouldn't work. That's the key thing. I agree, you still could have won because you're Faker and you were cracked on that champion. But the difference is, if you'd have picked something that had like short-circuited their whole draft, they'd be the ones that are on the back foot. Like, fuck, what do we do now? Like, we planned for you to do that. And I always think the difference now is when Chovy locks in those like deeper, like say he locks in like the fucking, I mean, he still plays all of them, Galio, fucking Annie, whatever. Because he just puts it when it's like the right time. Now he is unbeatable because he's the best player, and then he's picking like the OP shit in the draft that makes sense for the comp. Like, because there's another thing. There's been a lot of years where you felt like, in a negative way, people in his team saw him make his pick. Like, fuck, how did we work around that? I could totally believe he's on the same page as like their pre-draft meeting now. You know, in fact, if anything, he actually looks like he's become a good teammate in that sense, mate.
Oh yeah, definitely. As the development of Chovy it's incredible that he finds a way to kind of surpass himself every year.
Yeah,
because every year the same conversation, and rightfully so, the conversation is that because just in terms of how he plays at an individual level was always there, and he's just answering time and time again when questions come up. It's like, how will he do in Fearless? It kind of contradicts what he does, and he just finds a way to shine. But to circle back to the initial part of the conversation, it's like if T1 managed to do it this year, Faker managed to do it this year, it's like the opposite side of that is Chovy does manage to do it this year with this squad. I don't know what will, bro. We need to release League 2. We need to start over. It's just done.
By the way, the other reason why, if you win now, if you Faker it is the ultimate win, is because then you just make it so that, like, even just in terms of the time left in the game, there's probably not enough time left for Chovy to win enough worlds at that point, is there? Like, if you have fucking 6, then you're pretty. By the way, you just have 1 yet. You're in a pretty good spot, and you're probably safe at that point in time, aren't you? So, no, that's also the other thing I also like about Faker in this part of his career. He also understands the old man game, which I've always thought is underrated as well, from a career perspective, because I always told people, right, even though, yes, I do think people like Faker and Roger Federer and Ronaldo do also play for the love of the game. They clearly have like a crazy passion to play where they almost like a child do enjoy just, the practice and playing the warm-ups and stuff. But another reason you keep playing as long as you can is to deny the other rivals championships. Like, I always thought Federer, mate, if he'd have really had like the 20 Grand Slams, but like 10 years ago, and he hadn't have had a true rival, say Nadal only ever won on clay, and no one else was close to his, he just retired way earlier, in my opinion, because he had a bunch of injuries, by the way. He would have like, shoulder injury and then a knee injury. But I think the reason he kept coming back was because if you nick even one of those Grand Slams from your opponent, you know how much harder you make it for them, for the little kid in 20 years looking for it to look as good on the Wikipedia. Like, you're actually sort of, you're shadow boxing like history when you do it. You're not even just directly playing this guy. You're denying him a chance to get to your total or to surpass you, etc. Which is underrated. I do think so. Because I can tell you the sports where people did just retire when they were number one. That's why in that documentary, Michael Jordan was super salty about not getting to play with the Bulls. Because at the time, mate, it's fine. You're like, I'm the greatest. It's okay. But if in 10 years from now, someone wins 11 championships or something, like Bill Russell did back in the day, you're going to wish you'd played every year you could. You're going to think, fuck, what if I had 2 more in me? That's going to torture you.
Yeah, you mentioned like the retirement aspect of it. That's also like if Faker just wins and retires.
That's a gangster way to go out too, innit? I know. Also, think how sick this would be, Yamato. Do you know why that would actually be the most gangster move? Because you won worlds in the first year of your career, and then you win it in the last, and just go, see ya, and just ride off over the sunset with the fucking silhouette. Like that's how you leave God mode style, innit? You know. And I tell you what, this is what I'd even do. Listen, Faker won't do this because listen, he's gonna have to. He's still a young man outside of the esports context. He has his whole life ahead of him. He probably has to have another career. Probably even has to have a career connected to esports. I imagine he'll be a coach or a figure within the scene or something. But the most gangster move, really, Yamato, is if this really was like, you know, sports where you could make hundreds of millions of dollars. The most gangster move would be you win the last worlds in the last year of your career. By the way, 10 plus years into your career. And then literally the last time anyone ever sees or hears from you is you exit that broadcast. Yeah. That would be God tier, mate. Imagine you literally go away, you're in seclusion, you're like one of those authors that no one's heard from in 30 years. They're reclusive, JD Salinger shit. No one's even seen a picture of you for years. You got all the Chinese spies shimmying up trees, trying to go down drain pipes, infrared thermal imaging. They can't ever see you, and no one ever hears from you again. And then you just say some, oh yeah, obviously logically you have to say some shit like on the way out, like, and the rest of my career is for you, the T1 fans, and then leave the audience. Oh my God! Oh, Faker! And then eventually, in 100 years, you know, legends will come that Faker will return one day when Korea has become worthy enough.
And like, turns out he was Satoshi, you know, the creator of Bitcoin. You know, he just did that.
He was just holding up Bitcoin the whole time. No, you know what, you've mixed it. That's how we should tie it together. What happens is when Faker finally wins his last worlds in 2 years, that's when finally the last Bitcoin is mined. And it's revealed that he was actually the creator of Bitcoin. And now he's got like $10 trillion. He fucks off, like lives in space or something. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, there you go. There you go.
I watch that movie. Yeah,
not bad. Like Interstellar.
We need Spielberg in here, you know? Like we should get this done. I like it.
Right, let's talk about some LCK then. So how about this? Right, first of all, Yamato, I think we'll go in reverse order on this one. Normally, I try to go like roughly, you know, but how can we ignore the obvious elephant in the room, which is think about what I complained about on some of the past episodes, this split, which is that like the one thing I'm bummed out about LCK is it's not just that KT had become irrelevant, because essentially, like I said, there was a big 3 last week. And the problem with KT, and like Nongshim, I don't even talk about because they don't even win games, mate. But at least KT, like, you know, looks like they can win a game and then doesn't win against the top ones. Bro, the one that they never win against is T1 this year. If people don't know, T1 had won 9 straight times against them or something absurd like that. And if you ever watch, like, these weren't even close games sometimes. They would just get clapped. Mate, the idea that not only does KT win, they 2-zip this motherfucker. And if you watch it, by the way, our timing on that last episode for the BDD glazing. Because, bro, he gave us a fucking performance in this game. I still don't think most of his teammates are any good, mate. But he is so fucking smooth with it. You know what I mean? He's like, what I love about BDD is he has the high mechanical and, like, playmaking aspects. But he's so fucking slick with it, bro. Like, he does that shit, like, that we all rave about when, like, Callisto does it in LEC, where you just do, like, the pixel perfect step forwards and you sidestep. Oh, it just looks, he makes it look too easy, bro. I love, like, even though I think it's like, look, KT is not good. I refuse to believe they're going to do anything at Worlds. This is a fucking, I never expected this series, man. I thought this was T1, 2-0 all day long.
Same. My kill handicaps missed completely. Like I thought T1 looked rough in the draft. I was like, oh, BDD Talia, but it's Diokdam, it's Peter, it's perfect. You know, cuz respectable, you know, but I didn't expect these guys to do well at all, especially like Perfect got subbed in, subbed out. Sorry, not Perfect, but Peter with Wei coming in and out. Like they had issues. They were trying to figure some stuff out, but then looking at this game, I was like, BDD is finally having some teammates that he deserves. Because if I remove nameplates, I would be like, yeah, this is GenG versus T1, you know? Like, this is GenG just smoking them. Like, they're just having a great game. Happens sometimes, it's GenG after all. It's like, what? Diokdam is playing this fucking aggressively. He's posturing forward with Kokin, outlaning Keria Gumayushi. I didn't understand how this was even possible. And then, of course, BDD, like he's been extending his hand to his teammates his whole damn career. And always the painful part about the KT T1 matchup was that I always felt like BDD was outperforming Faker. He was getting solo kills after solo kills. Even in those, when everyone memed on KT for picking them in that playoff run, it was just like BDD was still in the AD carry meta. He was still popping with the Tristanas and getting solo kills left and right, but it just never mattered. And the fact that it came together like this is like the timing of it is very nice because KT is obviously peaking because I did think T1 underperformed because I have never seen Keria miss so many Q flashes. I've never seen so many missed Pantheon ultimates or just like terrible timed engages. Even like Gumayushi like falling asleep at the wheel where he's like walking up on the mid wave and just getting dry and he comboed into solo killed by BDD. There's definitely some of that of T1 underperforming because that's very clear like looking at the past series because they had a close series against Nongshim, which we both agree is a terrible team right now. They had a close series against Hanwha Life, but that is like acceptable because it's Hanwha Life in the end. But this one, I think KT just performed super, super damn good. I saw some stuff here. I really love the approach of Peter in particular, because all he did was isolate Yokdam and he just opened on BDD's lane. Like all of the action was around BDD. It's as if they had a meeting. It's like, guys, BDD is our best player. What do we do? All roads should lead to him. Let's just walk to him and see what happens. And good things happened.
Also, I've got to say as well, like, I know what you mean. This doesn't seem like a pure fluke. I do think from the T1 side they played inexplicably bad. But the reason why I actually do agree, KT in general feels like it's peaking, because earlier in the week when they played actually against Hanwha Life, bro, they were actually in that series. Like, again, I thought they were just going to get, like the rest of the split, I thought they were just going to get dusted off by the top three easily. Like, this series was winnable, mate. Like, there's a world they could have maybe even pulled this one out. Like, in general, I know what you mean. Things are coming together. I think even actually one of the other ones that's key for me is that guy Perfect. He's really hit and miss, but every now and then he does have a good game. Mate. He does have some matches where he can get it going. Yeah, it's not too bad.
Slippery. It worked.
And we need a fourth team because remember they're going to have that thing where the fourth from the LPL, the fourth from the LCK plays off for Worlds or whatever. And right now, by the way, that's actually really spicy because I tell you what, the fourth from the LPL is also a bit up in the air. No one knows. Like, who knows what the fuck that could actually be IG. By the way, think about that. By the way, there's actually a world where it could be like BDD versus fucking Rookie to see who goes to Worlds. How nuts would that be? It's pretty bonkers, isn't it?
Oh, that would just be too perfect. That was just KT. I'm like in the form that they showed against T1 with the turmoil that T1 is going through, how Life is going through. It's like performance, of course, fluctuates, and I think a key thing to outline is that T1 didn't have the post MSI dip, post EWC dip.
Yeah,
they hit the ground running. They were the only team out of the internationals that was still performing good.
Absolutely.
So it's only natural that at some point the performance is going to dip because leading up to this loss, it was very clear that draft-wise there was a lot of problems. There was that Silas game they played against GenG with the Nocturne and then the Zion to the Ziggs where GenG just completely like dismantled them because T1 was predictable in their approach. But this is how they got to this peak in the first place. The reason they got second place MSI was because they leaned into comfort. And now I think they're in a period where they kind of need to restructure and find themselves again because if they have ambition to beat GenG or win Worlds, because obviously they have, I do think that they need to take a step back and kind of reset. But at the same time, the main data for me about T1 in the series against KT, because I think the series against Nongshim was also bad, is that against Nongshim, I think their drafting was just terrible. Didn't like make a lot of sense. Here, like in game 2, T1's playing Pantheon, Gwen, Galio, Lucian, Braum. These are like all classics besides maybe Keria on Braum. He doesn't look super happy to play that, but it's Lucian Braum. It's like Gubayushi on Lucian. So they were playing things that are a deep comfort, but it seems like their kind of dip in performance is just coming a little bit later than everybody else, and they kind of need to restructure and find form again. The next week is also super important for them. It's like they have Hanwha Life on the menu, they have GenG on the menu. So if they lose these two games, they start in the lower bracket instead of being, of course, the second seed because they are neck and neck with Hanwha Life in the score. And I don't see a team that is going to upset them besides maybe KT, but I don't think they're going to be playing against them because of how the bracket was. They will get third and then KT fourth, which means that they get to play at either against a Nongshim or against one of the teams that comes from, of course, the lower group. So they should be fine either way. I wouldn't be too worried.
I see what you mean. Yeah, I do. Yeah, essentially what Yamato's talking about is because GenG's automatically locked in. It's just between Hanwha Life and T1 for who comes second. And if you're second, you basically get that thing where if you just win the 1B or 5 year at Worlds, it makes it so easy for you to happen. Whereas the difference is, I mean, there's absolutely a world where you have to play like an extra B05 and then even risk going to the lower bracket, which look, not really that much of a risk at the moment. Like, just look at as any other fucking good teams. Like by the way, we don't even talk about fucking D+ anymore because they're not even dominating that fucking group down there. It's actually sad. It's actually legit sad. Like, right, put it this way, Yamato, it's gotten so bad that the one thing I thought I could rely on with D+ is anytime they ever had decent favourite bet numbers, I was always going to bet them. Mate, I can't bet them against Brion and Fearx anymore. I'm scared. Like, they actually lose these games, you know what I mean? So, but even so, it is a factor that, like, you never ever want to give yourself extra games to try and qualify to Worlds because, again, you wake up and someone has a fucking flu, or the one guy on the other team has the game of his life, suddenly you're out. That's it. Like we discussed earlier in the episode, last year, if KT had just had one miracle game in that 5th game, it would be over. T1 would be sat on stream with us watching Worlds. And what's crazy is, this is the one thing I hate about the fact that they won. I don't hate that they won. They did an awesome job. I just hate that it means that there's a type of fan who's like, see, I was right when I said every single week of the year they are the best. It's like, well, you were wrong all those weeks. Like, the point is they really were. That's why I actually think the ultimate thing about the last 2 Worlds wins for T1 is they're like a movie, bro. Like, you have that thing in the movie where in the second act it goes really badly and, like, the enemy kicks your ass and you don't even know if the hero's going to come back. They did like the full arc where it's like you have to come back from almost nothing. Think about the summer 2023, the Poby one, this last one where they're almost dusted off, and then they were also themselves losing to the Brions of the world, like pathetic losses. The idea you go from that to, like, however many, at that point it'd probably only be like a month and a half. Like, a month and a half later you win the world championship. Like, that's impossible. That would be a great ending to a movie. I mean, the joke being, if it was a movie, you'd do that thing on the way home when you finish in the movie, like, nah, it never happened in real life though, would it? Like, it did. The stupid thing, even the way it played out, like the game 5, by the way, if that was a Hollywood movie and Faker did that, like, fucking play on the Gallagher, you'd be like, fucking Hollywood scriptwriters are so lazy. It's so implausible, You'd never do a movie. You wouldn't, like, it actually was better than a movie would be. I think the real life was better than any possible scriptwriter could come out with, mate. Even the fact that he did that thing. There's the thing, I have an appreciation for broadcast, mate. So even though at the time when I thought they were just going to get dusted by BLG, yeah, I thought it was a little bit too much like Faker's the God in that pre-game video. But when you then do win the world, suddenly it becomes gangsters fuck that in the pre-match for the final, you're like, the 5th one is for you. Like, that's actually sick. I can't even lie, man. That is, when you win, that is dope as fuck.
I think just looking at the 3 past World Championship with the DRX win too, I think it was less plausible that shit played out the way it did with the last 3 Worlds than somebody telling me, like, there's an active script writer, there's like someone fiddling with the numbers. It's like real time in the fight. He sees, like, as owner's leasing Q hits, he just adds 15 damage. Just makes the champion die a little bit here and there. They just give them a little nudge and a boost. I feel like that's almost more likely than fucking DRX winning Worlds and then T1 winning back-to-back Worlds from the positions that they were in. Because it's like, just so everybody's in the loop, that is this thing. We had the Poby storyline, and then we had losing to Daman and then going game 5 against Katie storyline, barely, making the World Championship into just completely blasting these World Championship, just completely annihilating them.
Absolutely. Right, I'll tell you what though, Yamato. Before we discuss other things, let's take a tangent and discuss something not about esports for the moment.
It could be esports related. It's just a question of just what kind of ideas do you have to kind of give yourself, financial freedom. Everyone likes to chat with their friends about business ideas, and they look at shops, they look at things, and they look at items and they look at advertisers. They think to themselves, I could have done that better. And then they hear stories about how somebody turned into a millionaire and he runs his own business, and you think to yourself, this guy's just a jackass. He's probably a scammer. No, he just took initiative and went to Shopify and just took a leap of faith. And this leap of faith is very, very cheap, I tell you, because I've been playing around with Shopify now. It's like the tools that you get. It's as if You walk into an office and suddenly you have a bunch of employees that are ready to go and to just to support you in every need possible. Shopify is just an e-commerce platform, behind millions of businesses. So you're already connected, to the grid. A lot of companies started like Gymshark, Mattel, there's a lot of businesses that are working through Shopify. A big thing is the accounting aspect, accountants out there, get paid big bucks to make sure that all your paperwork is in place and that you pay your taxes. This is very, very streamlined on Shopify, which is super important. Making sure that your website is eye-catching is also something that Shopify will help you with. They have like these templates, and making the design is super, super easy. If you are, technologically savvy, you can also go behind the scenes and look at the code, and you just make it more complicated as you wish. But you can also make it simple. Just drag and pull and add these boxes to make it as pretty and eye-catching as possible. I think it's also important to, of course, get your name out there. You can get the word out there, like you have a marketing team behind you, easily create email and social media campaigns wherever your customers are scrolling or strolling. As I mentioned, it's as if you already have like an office full of employees ready to work at your disposal. And Shopify is very, very cheap for what it is. I think if Shopify is listening to this, you guys could maybe raise the prices, because this is kind of crazy. Either way, turn your big business idea into, of course, cash with Shopify on your side. Sign up for $1 per month trial, which is crazy. Just if you have an idea, just try it out. Play around with it. Maybe you get to, remove yourself from that job that maybe you currently don't like, and you can create financial freedom and be the boss of your own life. Because I think in the end, money equals freedom. You just go sign up for your $1 per month trial and start selling today at shopify.com/summoning. Use our code, of course. Go to shopify.com/summoning. Just go do it. Make your dreams come true. Stop just chatting with your friends about what you would do, what you could do. Take initiative and take control of your life. Use Shopify and use the code summoning. Thank you, of course, Shopify, for sponsoring the show.
Indeed. Okay. By the way, there's still plenty to talk about in LCK, right? Yamato, I pointed out, I think it was like 2 weeks ago or something, that crazy stat for GenG. We did the one where it was like how many series they'd won over the years. But even just this year, bro, because they've combined the splits, remember, like the part, but people forget this. Road to MSI was what they labeled the playoffs, but technically the regular portion of the last split wasn't the last split. It was the first rounds of an overall single split for the year. And now we're in rounds 3 to 5. And so technically all those 5 rounds get put together. That's why the record is all jammed together, which, by the way, I'm not really a fan of, because I think it makes it harder to sort of tell the story and segment the split. It reminds me when a few years back they did that with LCS, if you remember. They just took the 2 splits and combined the records. But it meant that in summer, you'd always be looking like, why are they fourth? Oh, right, it's because they did bad in the first part of the split. You'd be thrown off a little bit like that. So anyway, bro, if you just look at the record of GenG, like I said last week, it is still absurd, mate. It is still absurd. Like, if you don't know, guys, in the last, they've lost 1 game since I last talked about that. Like, they are now 55 wins and 10 game losses, right? Second place is 22 game losses, Yamato. Like, they're just so far ahead. It's nuts. And this is where, by the way, if you are that T1 fan in the comments, understand, I'm only addressing you now because you're stupid enough to give me free ammunition. You're not actually who we make the show for. Like, if your whole thing's like, so all you're going to do every week is just talk about T1 when they lose and then glaze GenG. Yes, dickhead, on a weekly League of Legends show, when we watch every week GenG be the best team in LCK and the world, we're going to do things like say they're the best and speculate maybe they could win Worlds. I think that's actually an entirely appropriate conversation to have. So even though listen, get ready. I understand they didn't win Worlds the last 3 years. But actually, what you're missing is that's also why you need to talk about it like this. Because I don't want people to really think in history when they look on the Wikipedia, Yamato, and they see, wait a minute, Faker, the greatest player of all time, player of the decade, player of the year, and he won Worlds. He must have just been the best in 2023, 2022, 2025, 2026. No, you've missed the story. Not only did T1 come from at times the worst and the lowest, but one of the craziest angles is essentially they won all those championships in what would have been the Chovy and GenG era. It would have been GenG that was winning every year, or maybe like, Knights teams, TES, BLG. These are the teams that otherwise would have gotten these championships, and they would have the narrative that it was their time. So it's actually essential if GenG ends up actually having the downturn and not winning Worlds, that you highlight how high up they were before, because this is like 3 years in a row, bro. Let me think. No, this is 4 years. This is like 3+ years in a row where they've had a moment where they look like the best team. And at that moment, if you pause time, like now, everyone would pick them and win Worlds right now, mate. I mean, it's even worse if you're actually a fan like us who watches the LPL too, because you know that in the LPL, every week we can have that discussion who's the best LPL team. It actually changes for the results, the eye test, who's playing well. The difference is GenG is the only team in the entire world in League of Legends where when I tune in, I am almost certain they are going to win every single match they play. In fact, like I said, at this point in Yamato, they win every game they play. Like, it's actually quite rare they even drop a game. And what's amazing to me is this. They win every type of game, Yamato. That's the craziest thing. It's not like they have one style, and if they play that one, bro, they can win when they like front run on you and just fucking style on you. They can win from just objective control. They can just team fight you. That's also what's really exciting for me this year. I always think is the difference between past years is I do think past years were like an unusual macro style, or you play mainly off Chovy, or back when you had Ruler, it's mainly off Ruler and shot. Now, mate, they can play through all the fucking members of their team. They can play all styles of the games. They're also, like, again, to tie into the T1 contrast, holy fuckers, this team, now that Chovy's unlocked his champion pool, this team is amazing in Fearless Draft, mate. They're incredible, right?
In my mind, I think if they can carry this over into the World Championship, for me, it's like undisputed, like best team of all time.
I don't think it's unfair, yeah.
Based on the range of play and based on just the individual peak of everybody. It's like the only thing that is rough for Duro is the fact that Keria still exists. But he's still there. It's a worthy conversation to have, Duro versus Keria, in terms of who's performing best, because Duro is also insane. Like, there's MVPs that he's not getting. I remember there was this one comment that I translated on the YouTube stream, because I like always look at LCK in Korean, where someone wrote, it's like, what does Duro need to do to get an MVP? Does he need to defeat Kim Jong-un? I just translated a random Korean comment because he just never got MVP, because he's just among so many stars that it's like, to shine, you need to shine extra hard. GenG, to me, the fact that they can, in a world where there was no fearless, they would just play these like drafts that would scale into the game, have long range, and they would just slowly suffocate you. And that would be like what people say when saying.
I definitely agree. I actually think Fearless forces them to actually open their game up. I know what you mean. They would, because the problem is they just showed that they like comfort, don't they, in the past? But I know what you mean. You can't do that now. That's the beauty. In a weird way, that's the best thing about Fearless. GenG can't do that, mate. They have to play all the spells.
They would just suck out all the air out of the game.
Absolutely.
There would be no activity. Chovy, Keen would not get ganked on side. They would just farm. And they would make like these very efficient trades. There would be no kills in the game until, boom, they have 2 items. And they just have farmed 30, 20 CS better on every role. And they just win the game through poke and positioning. But they can still do that like they did in that game 3 against, of course, T1, where they played the Ziggs and the Koki comp. But now they can also skirmish heavy. They can utilize, the full range of Canyon. And there is not a particular style when I'm like, ooh, GenG drafting this, I don't kind of like it. And you can attribute that to any of the big teams. Like even Bilibili last year, when they had a draft like Smolder, whatever, like a poke draft that like scaled into the game, no matter how good it was on paper, you were still scared shitless that they would just take a fight that is not necessary, like they did against T1 at the World Finals, But they were like good as a skirmish team. When you look back at any team in history, you could always attribute like this is their style. JDG with their team fighting, T1 in terms of how just clutch they were at Dragons, and they just kind of lured you into that position. But with this GenG, they just have such a wide range of play that as long as their draft is good, I expect them to perform insane. And I don't think that's something that I could have ever attributed to any team ever. It's like, sure, they could be teams that were great could beat any team in their league, maybe, playing some random drafts. But there were teams that could catch you off guard, like if G2 drafted kind of willy-nilly at their best in Europe, Fnatic could beat them. They would lose against Mad Lions in the series because they kind of went too off the cuff. But GenG now, it's like, I'm with you 100%. It's like if they go into a game or even the context of the World Championship. Anyone who doesn't think they are the favorite to win the World Championship now just doesn't watch League, you know? Just doesn't watch League.
Yeah, I'll just say this. I would always ask a fan who goes, but they didn't win. Okay, what are you actually saying? You are aware that what you're basically saying is you're psychic. You're not even saying, because remember, if you analyse the game, what Yamato just said is almost inarguable. Like, GenG is the best team now. By the way, they look like the best team ever to win a League of Legends. Like, they even have actually what I think is the ultimate factor if you want to be the best player or the best team ever, which is if I really did put you in a time machine and send you back to play the other great teams, yeah, this team would beat them all. Like, they look like that. Like, they look like you go, take whoever you think there's the nuttiest. What IG season it, they'd beat them, mate. They'd smash them. Like, G2 2019, I think this is one of the few teams that would fucking give them trouble. Like, Faker's old teams, yeah, they have the players for it, mate. Because I also think there's two parts about this team that's mad underrated. One, it's actually a giveaway, Yamato, in what you just said about Duro, how insane his trajectory has been this year. Bro, he has already leapfrogged all the other supports in Korea, and it's just him versus Carrier now. Like, notice if I'm Delight, I'm like a champion, you know, bro. Like, I was like one of the best in the world for you. No one cares, mate. Duro's better than you. That's like, we've all seen it. It's true. In fact, I agree. If it was, the problem you have is this. You're not just facing Carrier, the player in the server. He has that crazy aura that he's just this, like, fucking the most unique support ever. So I always think the thing about Carrier that makes him untouchable is he has, like, I'm just the best support player, but then I'm also, like, the most unusual fucking, I've got all these extra elements that no one, you don't even have to have those to be a support, but it just makes him feel like he's OP, doesn't it? So I know what you mean. He's already skipped it. But actually, the bigger thing, if I tie it back into GenG, because I think this is actually what makes it possible to do all the things they do, is even though on paper, they look like they're going to have the problems of they're a super team. They've got all these players that have been the guy on a different team at different points in history. I've never seen a super team that fit together as well, mate. Like, that's the craziest thing. This team, for real, looks like they have, like, no egos to who gets the picks. Do you know what I mean? Like, except maybe when Canyon does, like, a fucking swagged out, like, Game 5 pick. Yeah, listen, he has his own ego picks, but baller, by the way. They're always like, I'll just pick the most hard champion to pilot and then win the game anyway, which is dope. The rest of them look, for real, like they have an amazing fucking culture within that team where they do give the picks to the people that it fits in the game. Or, again, one thing I love, by the way, is unlike those past GenG teams that were all about Chovy, bro, this game isn't about, like, Chovy's lane has to always be the one that smashes the game. Like, they play wherever it makes sense on the map. Like, I think that's another thing. I think people have to start giving, because I don't know if you know this, mate. He once was obviously himself the coach of T1. Kim, the coach of GenG. A few years ago, in fact, it probably still happens to this day if you go on Reddit, bro, the rep that Westerners have is that he's a fraud. Do you know that? They think they think he's carried, bro. They think he just got lucky and, you know, he went to China and he won there, and then he came here and then he won there. And it's like, they actually think he's overrated. Whereas I always tell people, like, Nate, look at the fucking records his teams have, like, especially because, to me, I think I know what it is. I don't speak Korean, so I obviously don't know the minutiae of, you know, how he is as a person. But my sense from seeing him and reading a few interviews is I get the vibe that in their team, he's not the guy who's doing what you call in basketball the X's and O's. He's not doing the super micro specific stuff. I get the feeling Faker does do a lot of that stuff, mate, and that, you know, the ex-pros do that. But the difference is, I get the vibe from the Coach Kim guy. For me, he has, like, the ultimate coach persona, though. Like, his presence is crazy, mate. Like, he does look like the sort of stern authority figure that you want to live up to their, you know, some Alex Ferguson type character. He gives me that vibe. I don't know about you.
No, I have a like a story, because I was very intrigued, because I worked with Gorilla and he worked with Kim, because I was very well aware of Kim's history. It's like Kim's team history is basically every team he worked with, suddenly the top laner was like the best top laner in the world. I don't think that there's a coincidence in that.
If people don't know, the 1 year that everyone loves the Shy was when he was with him. This was the guy who benched the Shy in a World's Playoff Series, guys. Like, this guy's just a baller. Yeah.
It's like, my man, he worked with Khan, he worked with the Shy, he worked with Noguri. Like, the list is kind of mental. It's pretty good. Really mental. And now Keed is finding new peaks more than ever. Like, back to the story about what Gorilla shared, because, like, when I asked Gorilla, I was like, what could you tell me about Coach Kim? He said, he said in one sentence, he's like, he's similar to Genghis Khan. I was like, what, so what does he do? He's like, I really prefer not to say. and basically my impression was it's like in terms of the standard, like he doesn't let anyone
Okay.
get away with shit. And I
Oh,
think it really
he's ruthless, right? I see. Okay.
and I think it really, fits into how
He's
you
not
view him
just like
too,
lying in a fucking big pile of pillows with like 10 women in his harem, drunk on,
No.
on fermented mare's milk, going, kill Faker, bring me the head of Faker. Like, yeah, right, I see. You mean more like he maintains a high standard, he demands
Yes. It's like very demanding and like
Right.
very harsh. It's like I've heard that he's mellowed out a lot after his T1 stint, that he was like too harsh at a certain point in
Right.
time. And now he's mellowed out, and I think it works very well for GenG. It's like I think Helper is the guy that does the strategic aspect a little bit more, but at the same time, these guys, you just have to keep them honest, right? You just have to keep them honest and make sure that they never just take wins for granted. I don't really get that feeling from GenG at all. In winter, definitely. In winter, they were very sloppy. Like they kind of like just losing series here and there. Ruler looked kind of off. Chovy was like making mistakes. He didn't have like the good kind of looseness. He had the bad kind of looseness. And after winter, it's like they just kicked into gear. And I think always, like I like to zoom out and give everybody credit. So I'm happy that you brought up the coaching staff, because it's very easy. It's like, oh, these are all insane players. They're just winning because they're insane. But piecing it together, we've seen a lot of teams with insane players that don't work. Yes. So props to the coaching staff for sure.
No, the reason I bring it up is because to me, if it really was just like what a reductive fan will say is they'll look at the players on GenG and go, what coaching do you even have to do? The players can already play. No, you're right. Individually, those are all mega players, but the difference is this blend of them that takes talent. That's like cooking. That's like, I wish actually at this point I was doing a fucking ad, but I'm not. But like that's like you didn't just take good ingredients. You like masterfully blended them together in a way where they complement each other and don't clash. Like that's talent, mate. And by the way, I also do hate, I think I told you this before, I really hate when fans do that thing where they go like, yeah, but look at all the good players. Like, put it this way, I'm a Liverpool fan, Yamato, right? So in theory, I should just be the ultimate hater of Pep Guardiola, right? If it wasn't for Pep Guardiola, Liverpool would have something like 2 or 3 more titles. Like, there was times where they were like 1 point behind or the same number of points. Meanwhile, the whole time, Manchester City, if you don't know, were signing bazillion pounds worth of players. Like, it's a real story. Mourinho once said it. Pep Guardiola, when he came to Man City, had the insane freedom no coach has ever had, where he could come and go, actually, I don't really like this keeper. Just buy me another world-class keeper. Instantly gets one. This back four, not really how I'm feeling it. Swap the whole back four out, bring a new back four. Bro, he used to have people, like, if you don't know, right now, Jack Grealish just moved on. He had players who were, like, really talented up-and-coming players, like Jack Grealish, just on his bench, mate. Like, you don't even get in the starting lineup. I tell you what, I might play you for, like, 10 minutes at the end of the game, even though you should basically be, like, a starter for, like, you know, the 5th best team in the league or something mad. Right? If you're a fan of the rival team, Yamato, yeah, I can tell you loads of Liverpool fans have said this. You're supposed to just hate on Pep Guardiola and go, yeah, but that's because you had more money and you got to buy more play. Yeah, but what you don't seem to realise, guys, is there's other people in history who've done that and didn't win. It's not, it's definitely, there's no universe where you just, no matter how good the players are, you don't really just put them out there and they win the game for you. Like, there's always at a minimum things like, how do you make the relationships between the players? How do you streamline shot calling components? How do you figure out who's accountable? Like, even, by the way, minor things people think are minor, like just sorting out arguments between massive ego players. Like, bro, there are ordinary coaches would crumble if you put some of these fucking egos in the room. Like, in fact, I even think of some of the squads some of these people have had. It's like, it's actually incredible you can make all those names work. Like, I always think super teams get in a way underrated because of that, because people really just think if you give a guy the 5 best players that he doesn't have to do anything. Like, he does. In fact, he has now different problems to overcome that don't exist when you have normal players. Like, the difference is I could put a lot of players with Chovy and they're just going to look at Chovy like, you told me what to do. What do you want? What do you like? But I'll tell you what, if I do put someone like fucking Ruler, man, Ruler has his own ego. What if it's an angle where Ruler wants to play like a fucking Kaiser? It's like, give me the pick, mate. Listen, you had the pick last time. I get it this time. I've seen teams get torn apart by that shit, mate. I mean, all I would say to a fan is this. Look at LEC. Hasn't almost every super team failed in LEC except the G2 super team? That's it. Like, nearly every other super team on paper not only doesn't win Yamato, usually they like bomb the league and come like 5th or something. Or they don't make playoffs or worlds or like. I think people actually underestimate how high it is. Because to me, what we're talking about with Kim here is this is a different type of coaching. Yeah, maybe he's past like what Peter Dunn has to do. If you bring a rookie and you work with them on basic things and you limit them and then you gradually encourage them to come out. Listen, there's a lot of talent to that. It's its own skill set. But I can tell you, and I think you can argue this happened with Heretics last year. If you give Peter Dodd the 5 best European players, though, I don't think he would have the success Dylan Falco does. I think they're different skill sets and coaches, and he actually hasn't had his years to be the ultimate coach of the big name player. He works with the rookie. He knows his skill set, you know. So I think it's way too reductive to think that like Kim's accidentally winning all these championships. Because also, as you say, look how many teams he was on, bro. I mean, you just ran it off there. That's like the Hall of Fame of Korean top laners. You just ran off the list there. It's nuts, isn't it?
It's absolutely crazy. It's very I know from people telling me, and usually the main thing that you have to fight against is like players test you. They test you, and the fragility of trust and how they allow information to flow your way, and them like being willing to take a leap of faith for you. That trust is extremely tough to come by, and even harder to hold on to, because you make a misstep and you say the wrong thing in terms of like pushing them in the wrong direction, because it's like you are taking responsibility in some degree of their life in those moments, and to build up that relationship and understanding the player and making everything make sense for everybody, depending on who you're involved with, is a very tricky thing. I remember like there's been moments where that has been very difficult, and the main job, like 2022 Fnatic, is like the go-to one, because in the end it's like I had 5 players that have won championships with different teams, and we managed to make worlds. But I can tell you from what our internal situation was, that was like a miracle, because that was just me trying to make sure that everyone feels good and feels okay, because we were like this close to just imploding every single damn day. It's like I had the Wunder camp, I had the Hilly camp, I had the Humanoid camp, all of them winning championship at very different teams. And we had at the same time like a rookie jungler that just couldn't like keep up with the rest of everything. So like the frustration was boiling super high. But I needed to make sure that everyone's bought into the idea, and somehow we made it to the World Championship. But if people saw what the internal situation was, people were going to be like, oh, damn, Yamato, you're a miracle worker. But in the end, I did say that this is also that should have won. Yes. And things that I wish I did different. But from the position I was in, holy, it's a challenge, definitely.
No, it's actually one area that I totally disagree with Fnatic fans. Fnatic fans always flame the coaches so hard because they're like Man United fans. They still think they should be number 1 every year. You know what I mean? They're just delusional. But what they miss is, I actually think a lot of the modern day Fnatic coaches have been very good. Youngbok, Dylan Falco was it? You were there. I actually think Nightshare did a good job. What you have to look at is look at the players you got and the problems that you're in. Because some of the stories I've heard are nightmare stories. I tell you the one everyone forgets in your case, Yamato. They all they remember about the split you're talking about when it got to summer, when it was Adam came in as the top laner and then Blippo role swapped. They only ever remember that you guys got to the final, lost to G2, not G2, sorry. You lost to Mad Lions, and then you went to Worlds and famously didn't get to play Worlds because of the whole upset thing, right? What they always forget is this detail. In the playoffs, you began in the first match of the lower bracket and you played Vitality. And Vitality at the time was the one that had Self-Made and Leader. Now, here's where people forget this, Yamato. People forget that was a 5-game series. And if they remember, once you get to game 5, anyone can win. That's just the way a series works. If somehow Vitality wins that, not only is this whole story collapsed, like suddenly it wouldn't look like genius to bring Adam in. Suddenly everyone would be going, why did you roll swap Blippo? I'll tell you an angle people forget, Yamato. Self-Made used to be the jungler of Fnatic. That would have been massive egg on your face from Fnatic Org. In fact, I'll tell you what, all the people would be like, fire the GM, fire the coach. Like, what are they doing? Why are they giving the player to Vitality? That would have been like a really bad, it's just cause you got that, parlayed it into those game 5 wins, then eventually beat G2, then got all the way to the by then it looked awesome, yeah, but people forget, like, it's precarious. Like that one game, that's like your equivalent, mate, of the T1 game last year against fucking KT. If they lose that last game, there is no cool ending, is there? Like, you never get it, unfortunately.
It's also even the year after that. It's like we had that weekend where we came into the tiebreaker game where we had to beat Vitality, and they didn't make playoffs with the super roster.
True.
And we made playoffs with Wunder and so forth. And even the first series we played was against the XL that had Mickey X, and that went to 5 games. And that game was a good 5, that game 5 was also a crazy one. We won off of a Yumi Q breaking a Sivir shield timed perfectly with a Gragas ultimate that pushed Sivir into a tower. which is crazy to even think about. But it's always the same thing. It's a small, narrow things just changes history.
By the way, I always thought as well, that was what showed you why the G2 Super Team was the greatest team we'll probably ever have in the West. Because, bro, think about Mickey X and Jankos. They each had a year where they went to another team. Mickey X went to XL, who were the joke team that never made playoffs. Jankos went to Herex, that was even bad. And, mate, the next year after they got kicked from G2, they both played so insane. You were like, holy fuck, why did they ever get kicked from G2? Like, if they didn't, that's how good these guys were. Because I remember, as you're saying, again, there's another memory hold series. Bro, XL was supposed to win that series. And that would have been the ultimate triumph for Mickey X, by the way. He was like the MVP candidate of the league. He just goes to a squad that's a joke squad. They're not even supposed to be relevant. And then you're going to beat Fnatic. Shit like that doesn't happen. There's a reason why G2 immediately brought this guy back. They realised, like, we actually shit the bed letting this fucking guy go. What are we doing? Oh, I have another angle.
They did it again.
I've got a quick angle for you, actually, which goes like this. You know, when you said earlier about like working with players, about how players will test you, I'll tell you a problem that a casual fan might not appreciate that a coach has, which is, I'll tell you what's really weird about players. This is what gives away that they're young and they're immature and they don't really have like a big picture perspective on their careers. Bro, they will go so deep tunneling into the minutiae of a small argument, trying to win that argument, that they don't understand like what the actual outcome is. Like, I'd love to pause time and tell the guy, what do you win if you win this argument, by the way? Let's say you're arguing really viciously, you know, where they do that thing of like, they're trying to get you in game knowledge or something, you know, oh, so you think this matchup would you? They always try to draw you into their world of like what they're doing in solo queue. And I'll give you the analogy. It's actually an epiphany I had in my own life, my social life. And I've told many people that were friends about this and it's worked for them. I've told them, I think it is a complete mistake to ever argue with your girlfriend. And you're going to think, what do you mean? Now, listen, I definitely don't mean you just roll over and be a fucking simp. And what you do is this. If you do it right, you speak in a way that is respectable, and you, by your presence, you command respect. Now, you can have a disagreement, you can have different opinions, but what you don't do is do stupid arguing where it's like you're trying to score points and you're trying to win, Yamato. Because here's my analogy, you'll get how it ties in. Say you actually, in the moment, find the best angle where they're wrong, or you find something they forgot that they did, or you find something they said that contradicted. Let's say you win in that moment the argument. Here's your prize. Your girlfriend's pissed off with you now, and now you've got a bigger problem in your relationship. You don't get a trophy. She doesn't now think you're awesome. You've now caused a way bigger problem. Your prize is, you won the argument. Your prize is your girlfriend's now fucked off with you. I always want to say to these pro players, let's say you're right. Let's say you beat him in this argument in front of everyone and make him look silly. Congrats. You win. He's a dickhead. Now no one respects him, and what, your team's just going to lose. Like, what did you win? What did you win? That's, to me, half of coaching is, there's so many big ego star players don't know. If the coach also didn't give a fuck about his career in the bigger picture, there's times the coach could wreck you. He could bring up shit about you, like, what about the time you fucking choked that series, mate? Or, hey, what happened against your rival? I thought you were supposed to be... The reason the coach doesn't do that, though, Yamato, is he knows that maintaining the relationship is really important. Even if we disagree, at the end, we still have to both be fighting on the same side, pulling towards the same direction, right? That's really tricky. I don't think a fan understands. The coach is playing at a different stakes than the player, you know what I mean? I think players sometimes do, almost self-destructively. They'll, to try and test you to see if you're legit, they'll sometimes destroy the environment themselves.
No, it's just majority of the coaching work, especially the game that changes so much. It's like the main thing on the game side, it's more important that you understand how to figure things out rather than be in a position where you know everything. Because knowing everything is impossible.
That's a great way
you
to phrase it.
You need to basically use your players to figure out the game because it's always changing. But the most important thing is language jiu-jitsu, especially in Europe, because you have players from so many different backgrounds. Like the way they communicate is just so different altogether. I always reference back to the Vitality roster. One Portuguese, one Italian, one French, one Polish, one German, Turkish. It sounds like the beginning of a joke.
Yeah, exactly.
It's like the way everybody communicates. It's like you have the Polish that's very blunt. You have this guy who's sarcastic. You have the Italian that you just don't understand them at all. Like navigating that and being like in tune with what they are trying to say and being kind of like almost the translator for their messaging is so crucial because sometimes you just have like misunderstandings happen all the time, and that's where a lot of waste happens. And when it doesn't get addressed fast, you just have the situation where that pain and the annoyance, while small in the moment, if not addressed over time, it weighs on you. And then when you have an argument 6 months in, all of those things, you carry them with you into that situation. So you just have to nurture how the dynamic is in terms of what is important to address. Because whether your idea is bad or good, putting it in the open and feeling like you are safe to put it in the open is the most important thing. Because if a player is sitting on a shitty idea and he's trying to convince the team, I want him to bring out that shitty idea because I don't want them to sit on that shitty idea. We need to all kind of have a balance and the same level of kind of information in terms of how we work. So navigating that, making sure that nobody carries like that pain with them and understand that you just have to carry and make sure the dynamic is filled with trust so you can be yourself in a pure way. I wanted to loop this back into I don't know how much you pay attention to what's going on with Los Ratones, but they also like had these everyone's like looking because they have like arguments and they're screaming very, very bad. Which to us it's like we know that this is what teams go through, but everyone's like psychoanalyzing it. So, oh, Nemesis doesn't care. Look how he's like rolling his eyes.
Okay.
Like, oh, like Crowny only cares about himself. He just wants to be the main figure, main character all the time. That's why he got kicked from BDS. This type of shit, you know. But in reality, it's like when they're going through a shitty time, all of the things that might have disturbed them that they put aside before the big games are just the same things that come up. And in those moments, like how you navigate it, it's like you need to understand. It's like, are we going to cut our losses? Or are we actually going to kind of break down our entire performance structure to kind of find a new peak? Because we talked about this the last episode with T1. It's like the reason they performed this good is because they draft this bad. Because they are just leaning into what they perform super good on. And when it hits, they can be the best team in the world. But at the same time, it comes with some risk. If you want to beat GenG, maybe you need to kind of elaborate on that. And then you need to take 3 steps back and break down everything you do to kind of move away from that structure. And that comes with risk. And I mentioned 2022, like the main point of that Fnatic roster was I wanted to maintain what we had. Because I knew if I broke everything down and I flamed everyone to the core, to the ground for all the bullshit that they did in that moment, I don't think that we would have recovered on time because we were basically forced to just perform. And I just need to make sure that we were intact coming into those big matches. And this is the thing that you need to navigate. It's like, is this the moment for me to break down this player in order to make him better and make him understand? Or is this a moment where I need to maintain? And this is an active thought process that just happens over the span of a whole year. Because in the end, when you play that final game in a year, everything that you've done leading up to that point gets tested. If you in that moment know the right pick and you can tell your player, you need to play this and you're going to win, and he believes in it, or if he doesn't, everything that you've done for a whole year gets tested in that exact moment. So everything just adds up, and it's so important to be reflective of every word that you choose and also every interaction that you have, because it's an opportunity to do a lot of damage and some good. So you need to be very, very careful.
No, by the way, one thing I think you're saying that's mad slept on there is the detail that you actually aren't literally breaking down every mistake and everything everyone does. That actually would destroy the entire environment. You have to basically pick and choose, like, what is the big problem right now? And by the way, certain problems, like as you're saying, if it's like the end of the summer split, there's certain issues we just can't address. I'm sorry. Like that issue will have to be addressed either in the off season or with a different player. Like if this was spring split week 2, yeah, I could start on it. But like if we've at this issue already, I've got to just understand that's what I'm dealing with, band-aid it and move on to the next thing. Like, what can I do within that paradigm? I know what you mean. That's actually an underrated detail. People really do think a coach should just come in and point out every mistake that was made. By the way, that would even just destroy certain people's confidence. Like, you just don't do that. There's certain things you just understand, like, you've got to let them go. That's not the most important one right now. By the way, to tie it back into LCK, the one last topic I have is this. You referenced it before. All of a sudden, in the last week, we do have this really interesting battle for second place. Because what's amazing is, if you go back in the first 2 rounds of LCK, so what traditionally would have been the spring split, Handball Life were clearly the second best team. In fact, obviously, by the fact that they almost beat GenG, they almost ended up sort of first in a way. And they had an amazing record too. It's just GenG had the unbelievable unbeaten one. And at the time, if people don't know, I think the record was I think it was like 15-4 in series, right? Since they came back from the international break, Hanwha Life is 5-5 in series, bro. Meanwhile, T1 has caught them. T1 went something like 8-2 since they came back, and they like zoomed right up the set. But as you say, not only did they directly play the head-to-head, but Hanwha Life, if they essentially just like, they've sort of got their shit together this last week, if they just have a last good week, there's a real chance to still nick second and just go into that position where you're going to be in a really great spot in the playoffs. Basically, you almost guarantee yourself worlds at that point. You know what I mean? Like, you're going to make it there. You're going to be one of the top seeds. Like, this is interesting to me because most of the split when we talked about Hanwha Life, it was always from the position of like, they should be so much better though. You keep watching. First of all, you look at the player names and you go, bro, this lineup looks cracked on paper. And then also in the game, you still see games from people like Viper that look nuts. You still see Zeus make moves that are like, oh, he's still there. Oh, dude, that's the guy from T1. Unless maybe Zeke has had his harder times. Peanuts had a few fucking rough times. I would say Delight's just more someone who just looks like he just never recovered from failures, quite frankly. He really was the guy where if you gave him his 3 champions, he was unbelievable. If you put him onto like a weird match, he was maybe just a bit more average. All of a sudden, it actually is starting to come together, though. Like I said, low key, I actually sort of believe Yamato. I think they're going to get it together this last week.
It's like the T1 How a Life match is like the opening one. It's like you said it yourself, 5-5. Like the magic is in that number. They haven't won against GenG or T1 at all, and that's 6 matches in total. I don't see them winning, but even like taking a game would make such a big difference in making sure that you get the second place. Because then if you 2-0 Nongshim and GenG, let's say 2-0 T1, then all of a sudden you get the second seed and you're through. And the fact that T1 3-0'd you in matches just doesn't matter because they count, of course, series score and then just map score in that order, like basically your percentage win ratio. But for How a Life, it's like we talked about this also on the last episode. I think being in a period of underperformance is the worst thing that like this format is just the worst thing for you. Like because you are playing T1 and GenG like basically every week, and you don't really get a chance to recover. You don't get a chance to like build up your confidence again. And then if like you're playing close series against KT, the issues there, it's like the same amount of breathing room that we had in the previous format. It just isn't there. I'm with you. Like How a Life, they just have so good players that it should make sense. But at the same time, it's like if there was ever a time for them to beat them with all the context of this split, it would be now. Like T1 in the last 3 series that they played haven't looked good.
It also makes the playoffs way spicier too. If we have like Hanwha Life beat T1.
Ooh,
okay.
For sure. It's like if you need to beat T1 now. Like this is your moment to build some momentum, build some confidence, and take a win against them because they are currently at the weakest. Because if you can't beat them now, I don't know that you ever will. And at the same time, I have sympathy for a team like Hanwha Life because in the end, it's like the off season went insane for them. We were super excited for this team. In the end, the context is that they are third with T1 and GenG. Like these are
third
two
best
teams.
team for all we know, bro. Yeah, for all we know, they're the third best team in the world.
Yeah,
knows, right?
could be. The main person I'm watching is still Mr. Peanut. Like Peanut.
Yep.
Peanut has not been at this split, and the same thing for him. It's like junglers just happen to be too insane right now. The junglers are too good and too well rounded that you can't get away with being like a niche player. He kind of has gone through the same kind of let's say evolution as a like as we mentioned this Faker, how a BDD and a Chovy has caught up to his unique skill set. Right now, I don't see what edge Peanut has over the other guys because sure he leans into the tanks, but Owner can play tanks, Canny can play tanks, and what is your edge? Mechanically, Peanut is just not there, and everything is just kind of catching up to him. And I don't know how he's going to adjust to kind of find form again. I thought the Ivan angle was kind of cheeky. He needs to get a little bit more experimental. Bring in the Amumus, bring in the Ivans. Be a little bit weird with it. I think that like usually if you can't beat everyone at the regular game, become like the weird southpaw that just is awkward to play against. And I think Peanut could become that. And I do think that he has players on his team that will give him space in the draft through bans. It's like no one's gonna come into a series and go like, all right, let's ban Peanut 3 champs, and your teammates not like Viper and Zeus they're going to be able to take advantage of that. So I hope that Peanut can find himself because I think that's the key. Delight is still picking Rel, he's picking Rakan. He knows what he needs to do. And Zeka's slowly getting better, I feel like. Zeus and Viper, I think they're just waiting. But you can see in the player counts that they're getting exhausted. Like time and time again, we see like Zeus with his like just face palming like this after a fight. And it seems like they are getting a little bit more and more tired.
I also think as well, and speaking of like up to, I do think Viper the last like 2 weeks has just played way better as well. It's just the thing about a player like that is, I also think those are the players that torture me whenever they have a hard time down, because his actual mechanical skill is clearly some of the best ever seen in League of Legends. Like the guy has just like the raw talent. So I'm always, whenever a player like that has off games or times when they struggle, I always think it has to be mental or something how they're feeling the game. Because he looks like he's back, mate. He looks mega, and also the champion pool right now is right there. I mean, he's even still just locking in the fucking Zeri and carrying with it, mate. He doesn't give a fuck. This guy's a stud. I agree, though, because here's what's to play for if you're Hanwha Life. First of all, if it all goes well, there is a real world where you could still come second behind GenG. That's totally plausible, but it's totally respectable, as we're saying. We discussed it on this episode. GenG just might be the best team to ever play League of Legends, guys. Like, we're not even saying be number one now. You'd have to be number one all time to beat them in theory. But I'll tell you what, the one thing people are missing is this. Because Hanwha Life looked so whack at EWC and didn't do anything there, people have forgotten that, like, on paper, this roster also should be fantastic internationally. Like, this was the team that fairly easily won first stand, quite frankly. They were miles ahead of people. Like, I could see a world where this team goes to Worlds and they're really fucking good. In fact, I actually think the underrated part right now is, normally I'm the guy that everyone hates because I, like, big up the LPL and then the LPL doesn't win against T1. As it stands right now, I love the LPL, but it is a mess at the top. And I could see a world where all three of the top Korean teams just do work at Worlds, mate. I think all of them, T1, Hanwha, they could all fucking carve some of these teams up. Like, right now, if I even take the big names, anyone's Legend will probably be a favourite over Hanwha, but not a massive one. Like, right now, they could both win or lose that series for me, mate.
I'm with you. It's like if I remember the discourse that we heard coming out of China post World Finals, where Billy took T1 to Game 5, and them not winning that Worlds was supposed to be the death of the LPL.
Yeah.
I don't know what this Worlds is going to be for the LPL, because I'm with you. There's a world where Hanwha Life just smokes all the top LPL teams. That's entirely plausible and possible for sure.
By the way, I do have something to talk about, though, which is everyone right now tells me they love Fearless, because one of the things about Fearless is you're not just stuck with the same things over and over again, where it's predictable and rote, and you eventually just become accustomed to it and you lose that joy for life. Well, you know what? Fearless equivalent in food would be signing up to Factor, wouldn't it? Because Factor has got so many choices, so much variety that you can choose from that wider selection of weekly meal options, including premium choices like salmon, shrimp at no extra cost, and expand your horizons in a culinary context in terms of taste and appreciation for the finer things in life. Also, if you play in League of Legends, you have to accurately not just carry the game yourself, you have to support accurately what you want to accomplish in life. You have to set up for objectives. You don't just go to a dragon or a baron. You have to plan in advance. How are we going to get there? What position are we going to use? When are we going to go? Well, similarly, they can support your wellness goals. You can enjoy more GLP-1 friendly meals, which if people don't know, as far as I know, I believe GLP-1 is the thing that like Ozempic works. I think it's the idea that it's food that like somehow like makes you sated your hunger or something like that, so you don't need to eat more. So if that's true, it sounds like they've nailed that angle essentially. It's like a real healthy way of doing it, the old fashioned way, not cheating kids. And also they have all Mediterranean diet options. Now listen, I'm from Northeast England. That's not my style as much, but you know what? Every other person I know in the world raves about Mediterranean food. Isn't that everyone's favourite diet? Everyone considers it the one that's really healthy because all the people in Italy and Greece and all that are all old-ass guys smoking that cigarette at 79 years old, still drinking fucking alcohol with their dog on a corner in Italy. In the background, some soft Spanish guitar playing. It's in your audience. Like those guys are going to live forever. So I'm not saying you'll live forever if you eat Factor meals, but I'll tell you what, you might feel like you'll live forever. There you go. That's subjective, that will hold a big court. So anyway, they have all the good shit, all packed with protein, good for you fats, etc. Then also, you all claim that you want more international tournaments, don't you? You don't just want to see the same things regionally over and over again. Well, you know what? Factor is the equivalent to MSI or Worlds because they have global flavours, baby. That's right. That's right. Rise, eat your heart out, motherfucker. We're more global than you. Tom Kench, the old broken one that allowed Wadid to have a career. Nah, not anymore, son. We're going around the whole world, not just part of the map. So as doing teleports back in the day that used to cancel, you won't want to cancel Factor. It's delicious and actually has all the global flavors. So you can try Asian-inspired meals with bold flavors, influenced by China, Thailand, and more. A bit like how all the Western coaches just copy everything Asian in League of Legends and go, that must be the best. So there you go. If Dylan Falco thinks it's the best, then that's almost an indirect, not official endorsement of Factor. There you go. So then finally, if you want to be not just good, you want to actually be healthy, you want to be strong, then what you need, my friend, is the right ingredients, because you need nutrition. It's not just about hitting your calorie amounts, like, staying under a certain amount and being, it's also about the quality of the food you put in, because the building blocks, the ingredients are going to decide how you are. Well, you know what? For more choices to have better nutrition, 97% of customers say that Factor helped them live a healthier life. So feel the difference no matter your routine, whether you're doing a kind of on-off weird sort of a thing like in the LTA, whether you're like the LCK and the LPL straight fire shit all the time, every week, bish bash posh, real rap, big boom bap shit, Vinny Paz level type shit, or you could just be Vanilla Ice over in America, just do whatever you do. Oh, look at my hair, look, girls, I'm popular and shit. Anyway, the point is, that's all to say that at factormeals.com/LFN50 off, use the code LFN50 off, you will get, you probably guessed it, 50% off your first box. Plus, you get a free breakfast item for 1 year. So that's code LFN50 off, factormeals.com for 50% off your first box, plus free breakfast for 1 year. You get delicious, ready-to-eat meals delivered with Factor. Offer is only valid, obviously, for newer Factor customers with the code, and you also, it's qualifying auto-renewing subscription purposes. So anyway, thank you to Factor. Thank you to everyone who listened to all that I just said there. Let's talk about the LPL, shall we? Because, mate, I know I've said it every fucking week. What I actually like about the LPL is this, Yamato. There used to always be, in past years, in the old LPL format of one giant round robin, though there used to always be crazy upsets. But the difference there was this, Yamato. I'll just say it because I'm Thorin, and I am the person who just says what I think, and says the things that other people can't say, and I do the Four Horsemen. Oh, I have many, many times in past years wondered, does this mean even top LPL teams match fix? Because some of these results are like, they wouldn't just lose to the fifth best team. They'd lose to Ultra Prime or something like that, like some team where it's like, bro, I don't even know when I watch the game that I can name all 5 players on their team. Like, this is outrageous. And they'd lose in the most suspicious way ever, Yamato. They'd be, they'd win 18 series in a row. Then they'd randomly lose to this randy-ass team. That team would never then do anything. And then they'd also just win all the rest of the games afterwards and still win the split. The difference is, every week there are upsets in the LPL now. But because of the Ascend group, they're like real teams that you lose to. And it means that actually even the crazy upsets, like, by the way, people like FPX inexplicably every now and then win a game or win a series, or the obvious ones is like Weibo still hangs in there, mate. Weibo doesn't win many series, but they make you fucking work for the win though. So the difference right now is this. In a way, even though there's lots of flaws, I actually find LPL the most exciting league to watch in League of Legends, mate, because every match looks fucking fire on the paper when I look at it. Then you can never, by the way, it's the hardest league in the world to predict. Like when the top 4 teams play each other, good luck. Good luck predicting who wins those ones. It's really hard, isn't it? Because as usual, again, we're going to do the same thing, Yamato. Because teams play so many matches and so many big matches, it's rare people can even win both series in a week, mate. Most times you win one and you look awesome, but we don't get to do the episode yet. So if we'd have done the episode the day after that, we'd be like, wow, are they really the best team? And then if you wait till the end of the week, they lose and fucking throw a game or some shit. So how do you feel about LPL at the moment? What's your sense for the league?
Oh, it's... First, I'm happy that there's no more Nirvana games. They are finished.
Yes.
they are done. Because those games are crazy. In terms of an LGD randomly losing to EDG. I mean, EDG losing to LGD. I'm like, EDG was supposed to be good. I'm looking at the teams that can maybe climb up, NIP and EDG look good to do so. They could maybe beat an FPX because FPX have so many issues. But I feel like this week, the tide has shifted, but at least this week was relatively, sane in terms of what this week was in in the storyline of our, let's say, top four. Because now currently it's like Billy, like they continue the story of like looking very, very weird when it comes to the late game. Like even today against FPX.
Oh yeah, the games before they were struggling in that one, mate. What the fuck?
What is going on?
Yeah.
And now I have enough volume and data to be able to be like, yo, Billy. I think the biggest issue for these guys is the fact that On and Shadow just don't know how to pick fights. Like they're doing this European League of Legends thing where they're taking every fight possible on the midwave. And I don't know how many times I've seen Shadow with a Vi just fly into like a tier 2. It's like, where are you going, brother? Same thing with On. Like these two guys just need to step in the river a little bit more and let the game flow, because the amount of work Knight needs to put in to make them win against FPX is just, it shouldn't be this way. It's like Ben is also looking good in my mind. Elk is looking better too. So it's like the main thing that is missing for me is just how they progress into like the post-Nash spawns. That's where I feel like they don't understand which areas they need to pressure.
Maybe it's the late game, mate. They have problems, don't they?
Yeah. It's just that like, I don't know. They just keep fighting on the midway for no damn reason. It's like looking at Billy's last 10 games. Every game, unless they are 10,000 gold ahead where they can just do whatever the fuck they want, they just end up fighting on the midway for no damn reason. Happened against FPX, happened in some of the other series, happened against IG as well when IG beat them, you know? It's like just in terms of the intelligence of how Billy played their macro, it's just so non-existent. It's very, very strange. And then we can carry on like Billy, you know, I feel like in terms of their individual skill, it's clearly there. It's like we're ranting about Knight like today. The clinic that he put on was crazy. Absolutely. Like that Aurora game was absolutely nuts what he put through. And I just, you know, in the conversation, I was like, Billy, you need to tighten things up because there's clearly, you know, some potential there. I just think, you know, the whole project of changing junglers and so forth, it's like, I am firm in the opinion that Shadow still came in and was, of course, you know, the still like the weakest player on the team.
Here's what kills me. Even in this exact series we just want, it's like the gods are mocking us, because who's the jungler on the other side of the game? It's fucking JJ! Why is he on FPX now? So FPX gets to have Shadow fucking looking away. Now they get JJ. Can't he just join BLG for fuck's sake? What are we doing here? Like, why is he wasting his time on FPX, bro? What is this?
Bro, our dream of him swooping in for playoffs and worlds is,
it looks like
no
it'd be awesome, doesn't it? Yeah, it'd be dope. So, yeah, sadly, I do believe it's gone now, you might. It's just Shadow for
It's done, yeah.
Yeah, we just got to accept it. And by the way, like you say, though, the one good thing is this. They are clearly better than they were with Beishwan. I agree, though. The problem is, though, that they do just look like they have that hard drop-off. So for me, they're one of those teams where, look, the one upside is this does make it, if you're a viewer and a fan, very easy to enjoy the game. You understand, like, they essentially have, like, a cut-off point they have to be winning really hard by. If they're not, then they tend to have problems. But I'll tell you what, that actually makes it, as a casual fan, quite easy to watch the match, doesn't it? Like, an obvious team you'd love to see them play against is someone like a GenG, because, mate, if they get ahead, could be exciting, but if any team could come back, it's GenG. You know what I mean? Like, you want a matchup like that.
Oh, it's just, the way to think is, like you mentioned FPX, it's like, for those who don't know, FPX have changed their jungler more this year than they had, than Billy did. It's like, they went from Shadow to IYY to Milky Way, who's now under investigation, and then back to IYY, and then JJ, because obviously Milky Way is like something we didn't mention on the show, but he's under investigation. He also just you know, next Vitality jungler is what they say. He's gonna join the team again.
LPL is just wilding this year, aren't they? Just play the fucking game, you idiots. What is all this shit? I know it's ridiculous, isn't it? It's absolutely ridiculous, mate.
It's just drama every
one thing I want to ask you about is this. When you were running down the players there, another thing about BLG we should discuss, because I was thinking about this the other day, obviously from my own obsessed Thorin rookie angle. You know the reason why, if you are a rookie fan, this is awesome, is because actually, because of some of the problems elsewhere in the league, like, by the way, if people don't know, I actually think the member of anyone's legend that got the most affected by the international break was Shanks. Mate, he was like an MVP of the league before. He hasn't even been that good since he came back. So if you actually look at the mid laners, the two best mid laners in the LPL are Knight and Rookie. I'm not even trolling, like, because who else is the guys? Remember, like, Zhao's kind of all right at this point in his career. Doinby is irrelevant, right? We don't even discuss that fucking group, mate. Well, that's off the table. Scout is unfortunately having some of his worst games, even though he has the odd, like, random good game in there for some reason. Like, for real, these two are the best. And I'm sorry, I'm not going to be ridiculous about Rookie. Knight is better out of the two of them. Like, Knight probably is the best player. He might just be the best player in the league, mate. He actually looks very good this split for me.
I think like the early part and the back end, there was like a middle part where Knight looked like kind of iffy, but like I'll give him that go because there's such a big volume of games. And I'm with you. It's like it's a race between Knight and Rookie, and I'm just looking at the individual matchup that we had. Right, it's like they played against each other. I thought that the Rookie was phenomenal in that series against Billy, and we are so blessed that the final series of the LPL is going to be that matchup again.
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh, it's gonna be amazing because it's
No,
like they're
what's funny
fighting
is-
for a lot too.
At the time that match got delayed, that wasn't like the biggest matchup in the league. That's actually going to be a really spicy ending going into playoffs. No, I'm with you. It's actually going to be more fun, I think.
They are basically fighting for second place.
Yes.
Like that's going to be absolutely insane. It's like IG's ramp up. It's like I was so skeptical when Wei came in, honestly, and I'm still skeptical over Wei, but everyone else is just performing so much better, so I can't really complain. But I'm with you. Knight versus Rookie. Like that's the conversation about who is the best performing mid laner. In the conversation of MVP, there's still some names that you can throw in there, like a Tarzan.
I think this is one of the most wide open MVP splits I've ever seen, mate. Because again, loads of the roles can get in on that one. Yeah, absolutely.
It's like the Tarzan and Kanavi. Those are the two guys that I'm watching on the other parts of the top four. But I guess we should talk about IG. You know, we have to do the usual glazing session. You know, we got to. We already mentioned Rookie. I think he's performing out of his mind. I think just finding angles, especially in that Billy series. Like I think finding the play back into the game. Like how I would categorize the biggest strength of IG is that they are insanely resilient. It's like I saw Gala laugh.
I know what you mean.
I saw Gala laugh for the first time in forever when Make was like 0-7 down, you know? Like they are really, really enjoying themselves even in their worst moments, which I think is super, super powerful. And also, I think even though IG might fall sometimes in the mechanical department, whether it's the Shy or Make or tripping over themselves, I do think in terms of like game approach and also like the draft patterns that Danny lays out, I do feel like they are in an absurd way one of the more or maybe even most intelligent teams in terms of their game approaches.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's crazy to say. It's crazy to say, but I feel like they're always in tune with the game idea, and I can always understand what they're looking for. There's going to be moments where they get caught out. There's going to be moments where they play fights in a terrible way. But in terms of like the setups and what they're looking for and what the draft identity is, I do think that this is a team now that is capable of just carrying water for one another. It's like you have the Shy. He's capable of locking in the tanks. You have no problem seeing Gal locking in a Jhin for the boys. And we also have full range of Rookie playing many different champions. And I think that's super, super cool to see. I think IG right now, it's easy to follow what they are trying to achieve. Sometimes the execution is funny, but it doesn't seem to matter to these guys because there's another fight to take always in the LPL. So I'm as an IG fan, bro, we are living good right now. We're living really, really good right now.
Even the whole weight angle. Look, he isn't close to the best jungler in the LPL, but it does. Here's what's bizarre. And the reason why I can sort of accept it, Yamato, is because it's not necessarily that I see him making all these great players, but it just seems like his presence somehow has had a knock-on effect on other people in the team. Like the obvious one is Mako, but mate, the other player as well is Gala just looks like the player he's supposed to be. Like this, for most of this year, I would genuinely have said, if you could cut this guy and bring on like, you know, some like just all right AD, you do it immediately. Like that would be the upgrade. Mate, he has had so many games this summer split where he's just had like giga carries. The amount of like double-digit kill games I'm even remembering in my brain is nuts, mate. This guy's had a massive glow up again, and he's suddenly one of the best players in his position.
We got lost in that JJ Mako reconnect, but the way Gala reconnect was
hey,
the
it
one.
Works. It works, mate. Yeah.
Because I'm with you. It's like in the game, Wade does some goofy ass shit, but everybody else plays better, and we just can't neglect that after watching Mako run it down and Gala run it down.
Actually, I do agree. One, I actually do think it's underrated that the veteran status of IG does play out in terms of like how they approach the game. Like they actually now fairly smart moves. I agree, by the way, completely. They are one of the best teams for real in League of Legends at doing like my joke is like the memory wipe between games. Like if you have a bad game in League, you might think from a movie, you should think about it and think, and watch, what can I learn from that? No, that's some shit you do for like the next game, the next series. In a series, you actually want for real to pull out that Men in Black device and just delete that the game happened and just play the next. They are really good at that, mate. Like the amount of times I see them like lose a really embarrassing game one, or one where they're leading and they throw it and Way makes a bad move and gets caught. So, but the amount of times they come back in game two, pure wipe, like actual veteran status. And also, I know what you mean about the Gala and rookie angle, because mate, one of the really underrated things about IG, it's why I actually think if they go to Worlds, a lot of fans who are not watching LPL are going to be surprised by this team, because they're going to think it's like some last dance retirement home lineup. Like, what the fuck? How did they make it? And they're going to think of all the worst years of these players and think, I bet this team's shit. One of the amazing things about this team, which remember, again, on paper, is technically a super team, this is an LPL super team of players, is, bro, they've also, a bit like GenG, got a really good balance between the three carries. I mean, the thing I could never believe I would be saying right now is that actually the Shy plays responsible League of Legends sometimes, mate. Like, even his picks are quite responsible now. Like, it's like he just fucking, is he born again or something? Has he had like some religious transformation? Like, has he figured out how not to be selfish all the time? Because, bro, the way that the three of them, the Shy, Rookie, and Gala, like, allowed each other to carry when it's their appropriate, is what you'd want. It's actually what my dream would have been coming into this lineup. Like, it's why, listen, I totally get if you're a casual fan, where you look at this lineup and you go, most of those are old players, there's no like hot young talent there, etc. But if you actually know who those players were at their peak, there's a reason why the OGs got hyped at this roster. We were like, mate, this could be it. Like, this actually looks kind of like, not even just like copium, this looks like it could actually be good. And I have to say, it is good now. Listen, it's not the best team in the world. Like, if I had to say right now, yeah, it's quite implausible they would win Worlds. But I absolutely do. Here's my prediction. I do think that, first of all, if you are that fan like me, who thinks it sucks that you've had all these years of Rookie and Faker, and they never just meet in the playoffs and Worlds, in the same way as Knight and Chovy never do as well. Bro, it could happen this year. Like, both T1 and IG are both teams that, as of right now, could make the semi-final of Worlds or the quarter-final. They could play each other. We could have that matchup. Which, look, here's the thing. It is kind of the Floyd Mayweather, Manny Pacquiao of, like, well, we did need to have that 10 years ago, guys. Like, you're sort of old now, like, but you still want to see it at least, you know what I mean? I still want to see it happen, though. So I think that can happen this year. I'm kind of hyped for it. I think that would be a great matchup, too.
Bro, I'm hoping. I don't want to. I don't want to jinx it, Like with things like this, with IG, I allow myself to be stupidly superstitious. That's the only team I allow myself to be stupidly superstitious with.
And here's the thing, Yamato, you can back me up on this. If everyone thinks we're just like deluded fanboys of Rookie, it's not like he doesn't give us anything back, mate. The amount of, as we're saying, he's actually one of the best mid laners in the world right now, guys. That's not a joke. The amount of games he actually has, where it's like, I almost just want to tell the hater, like, you weren't watching that game, were you? Like, this guy just does it now in 2025. Like, look, this is him on a strong meta champion carrying the whole game. Like, why wouldn't you be a fan of that? Because as I always point out, like, actually, Rookie did do it the other way to Faker. Like, Rookie's still just trying to be the best mid laner. And I'll tell you what, he pulls it off more often than people would realise. Like, he's not some, like, deluded guy who's just, in his brain, he thinks he's doing sick plays, he's just hinting the game. Like, there's a lot of games, again, you take that nameplate off, people would think this was some Shanks type, well, this is the next hot mid laner who's dominating. No, it's actually the guy who's been there for 10 years.
I think also just in terms of the construction of the roster, it's as if like if you had the top scientists out of CIA and all the researchers, and they were like, how are we supposed to make the Shy perform? Then it's like okay, we need Rookie and we need Danny. Like, these are the two guys that he has managed to find like good performance under, and we're gonna unleash the full force of both at the same time. And maybe, just maybe, the Shy is going to find some form again, because it seems like these are the only two guys that he gets motivated for. Because even though the Shy has had a lot of terrible years and just straight up of just the most careless gameplay ever. Still, he made a world final somehow off of the back of beating Bin in a beautiful fashion. And like, so the Shy always had it in him. And that was with Danny. So it's like, in terms of them putting it together, it just seems like everyone seems to be like on the same level of experience, because it's like if you put together that trophy cabinet, the only players that could rival is like the T1 roster. But the trophy cabinet of this team is that they've won worlds differently. It's a beautiful fucking trophy cabinet that these guys have. Even if you include Danny's, Damwon win. So it's like the experience is there, and it seems I imagine that the conversations that they're having are already like high level from the get-go. I think it's like the amount of catching up that people need to do is very limited, and it's so refreshing to see them just actively getting better. It just seems like a team that just doesn't get stuck in any of the bullshit, and I think that's the number one plague of the LPL. And if we think about what the World Championship is, that is like the number one bullshit trap that you can fall in every week. There's some another bullshit that you need to deal with, whether it's sickness or some travel or some other garbage. And I think this is the type of team that, let's say, they play as an underdog against a team that went 3-0 and insta-qualified and had a 1 week break before they get to play again. IG is the type of team to beat you when you're off. Like they're going to be able to do that because they're going to look at you and not being like, yeah, I don't really care. It's like your nameplate has no power here. I'm just gonna do my best and see where we land, you know. And I think that aspect of IG is super fucking excited. And right now, as it stands, it's like we're so close to playoffs. Like this summer split has just run past. I feel like, and I don't see a world where currently IG don't make top 4. It just seems so impossible, especially with the rest of the table.
Here's why this format for me has been vindicated by this year. Because here's where the format could have played out in a way that someone who doesn't like this style would hate it. Which is if you really did have it that you play all these times against the other top teams, but then you have one team just dominantly beat everyone every single time, maybe for some people that would take away the hype of the playoffs. Because everyone has got wins off each other and it's a constant like crazy rock, paper, scissors, it actually makes playoffs even more hype. Because in your brain, any possible matchup, you've seen all the variations of what can happen. You've seen all the different ways that someone can carry or throw the game or win, or it's a close 2-1 or a hard 2-0. And then even then, as we say, even top teams randomly just lose to like a JDG or fucking FPX or something mental out of nowhere. Like the obvious one to talk about now, though, Yamato, is for the whole year before the international break, Anyone's Legend was the team you bet your money on in the LPL. They're the most consistent team. If people don't know, even when in the first split when TES won, Anyone's Legend was the team from the upper bracket. They were still like a very high average level team. The floor was very high. And it was really hard. You had to have some really strong individual performances from TS players like Jackie Love, etc., to beat them in that finals. Since they came back from that player break, bro, they have been the most affected team in the entire world. Like, it's nuts. In this phase, they've gone 8-5 so far, Yamato. They're down in fucking 4th place, my dude. How is this possible? Like, I hinted at it earlier. I'll tell you one reason right now. My boy Shanks, mate. Did he ever come back from fucking Saudi Arabia? Where is he? He was looking not only great the whole year, he looked awesome, mate. He looked really good internationally. I thought he was having some awesome games against Chovy and Faker and fucking looking... Something happened to him when he came back. And in general, Anyone's Legend, it's like I always say this, and it still maintains in my opinion, they can beat most teams again. They've gotten that fixed. But mate, it's hard work now. Before, they used to be, for me, the clean team. You know, they're the ones that just clap you 2-0 and kick you out. What do you think of Anyone's Legend at the moment? Because I have to say, as you said, mate, if you want to talk about a team where it's scary because at the end of the split, bro, they could be out of playoffs quick if it's like this. What's going on?
You know, I do think like the free win they got from Billy pretty much in that game 3 did give them a little bit of a kick, you know, because I think the series they played against IG with the 2-0 them was a solid one. They had like some easier matchups. I remember in Weibo Gaming and FPX, so they got some breathing room. So I was very excited for the matchup against Top Esports. I thought that was going to be a very explosive game. Yeah. But Top Esports smoked them. They smoked them. And for me, Anyone's Legends has now turned into a team that it's like they are grabbing some 2-0s here and there for sure. But I think it's at the back of Tarzan. Like Tarzan has to do crazy work.
Well, you said he's the MVP candidate, mate. If anything, he has to work harder this split than he ever did before. I know what you mean.
And I think the most obvious way to see how Anyone's Legend function is that when they play against top esports, where I think Kanavi and Tarzan are like the closest parallels in terms of how they play. But I would say that Kanavi like turns up the heat so hard that sometimes it's too far, where he like there's an invade level 2 that Kanavi is going to do, and he's going to put the pressure on you from minute 1 in a way that Tarzan is a little more of a consistent and stable player through and finds like wins and wins and wins, while Kanavi just fucking takes the bull by the horns and just makes the game his if it comes down to it. But that series, I think, showcased that, yeah, if Tarzan is not allowed or not capable of enacting his game in the same way, then it becomes very difficult. Because you mentioned Shanks, I agree. Underperformance there, inefficiencies, getting caught as team fights that just look very strange. I think the same thing can be attributed to Hope too. You can see that the game is
Yeah,
still
true.
there, but then there's like costly mistakes that happen in the game. It's like you get caught on the midway before the Drake. Is that what AL is? Really? You guys are supposed to be the well-oiled engine. You are better than the sum of your parts. And now the parts are getting stronger. Meanwhile, so we're getting excited for what AL can be. But now they are losing, that level of precision that they carried in the previous two splits. And I don't know where they are heading from here. Because currently, like if I were to rank things, I do think that Top Esports, after that series, I put them at number one again after looking kind of wonky the week before. Just Top Esports looked to me like the number one team in the LPL again.
No, and we can just keep going. Yeah, that's the thing. For me, anyone's legend right now, their problem is they're the one team that doesn't want the split to end right now, mate. They wish there was 3 more weeks so they could sort of like keep getting it back together. They're sort of in the KT position, actually. They've only just got their shit together now, like right at the end. And I agree, because if you want to transfer this to TS, this is why I think we have done almost the impossible this year, Yamato. If you go from the first episode of Summoning Insight this year and listen to when we talk about the LPL and specifically Top Esports, I think we have some of the best analysis of anyone in the fucking space, because we're the only ones that don't just only whiplash based on each week's results, because they have had the craziest, like, they can look totally shit and they lose to a random ass team and you're like, fuck, this team sucks. And obviously the whole time the shadow of the international failures is in the background as well. So not only did they fail at first time, but people don't want them to go international. So I think people, just like those Hooper ratings, people do pull against Top Esports because they think it's a waste of time for them to win. But I'll tell you what, we always give them their props on the weeks they do really well. And we always point out they are just like the ultimate problem child. The problem is they have too many players that are too good and they have the basics to be the best team, but they also have massive flaws, and both exist at the same time, Yamato. It's not one or the other, and you seemingly can't choose. Like, Braceway, I even thought on paper, surely that roster transfer should make them worse. Who the fuck's Hong? I've never even been a fan of his. I tell you what, mate, he's even had some games where I thought he was pretty good. Like, actually, I think it was even the Anyone's Legend series. He was kind of pretty fucking good in that one, mate. He was having some banger get. Like, the problem with Top Esports is actually our problem, not theirs, Yamato. They are who they are. They have their own strengths, their own flaws. Our problem is none of us can really accept that, like, on paper, in the regular split, they are the best team in the LPL. That was probably true last season too. The difference is, yeah, they fall apart. The problem is this, Yamato. It's like the thing about Chovy and GenG. Even if he ends up somehow not carrying Worlds and winning it, you can't know that, so you can't make it like now he's not good. Now he is the best. Now his team is on top. I feel like you have to give it to Top. That's why I saved it till now, you notice. And for all the shit we talked on Top Esports, you could make an amazing supercut of us just trashing them this year. They are the team that is at the top of the standings against all these amazing squads, and they've earned it. They won those games, mate. I tell you what, if you only took their best games, they look amazing, mate. They have some games, they just smash people off the server.
The freakiest thing about the year, I like looking at Winter. I think coming into playoffs, they didn't look like the strongest, and then suddenly they beat Billy and made like a crazy run through the entire lower bracket, which was insanely impressive.
They were even pretty clutch. Yeah, they were carrying fucking matches.
I was like, damn, Top East was actually resilient. Maybe the tides have shifted and the scars of the yesteryear are not there. And then we had First Stand, which if I zoom out, I'm feeling the conversation with a lot of coping. If I zoom out, First Stand, like who gives a damn about this tournament? If I zoom out. But the weirdest thing, the most disappointing thing for me is that in spring, Top Esports also coming into playoffs looked super damn strong, awesome, and then they just fell apart. Yep. That is the one aspect of the Top Esports story that just really vexes me. Like the spring playoff run and falling apart there, because now in summer it kind of I'm getting that spring split vibe again. It's like they should be like the not the clear favorite, but they should be the favorite of what we've seen, even though we can definitely see a world where Billy beats them, IG beats them, AO beats them, but just based on the details, like a small percentage of an edge towards Top Esports. I do think in terms of where their individual performance is and how they work so much better with Hangover Crisp. I'm very happy with how Jackie Love is playing. Like Jackie Love is doing awesome, some good shit.
Yeah,
and Cream has his champions that he pulls out of his pocket and is looking better and better. 369 and Kanavi, I've had no complaints on.
They were really good at. They're probably the best at their roles, mate. They probably just are,
And so my side, it's like I'm gonna let myself get excited. I'm gonna let myself get excited because the only thing that really
Yes.
holds me back from it is that spring's playoffs. Because
Yes.
that to this day is the only thing that is really strange about this year for top esports to me.
This might sound like a weird point to make, but one thing I've actually enjoyed the last few years of my career is doing all these betting sponsorships I do, Yamato, because I always tell people the way I do my betting streams is very different from how I'll do like a talk show or a Thorin's Thoughts. Because when I'm giving my opinions, I can have all these crazy biases because that's part of who I am. I'm expressing what my thoughts are, my worldview. Part of it's coming from inside of me. But whenever I do betting, I always tell people I actually try when I bet to be really like emotionally distant and to just really try and like analyze who is the correct team relative to the odds to bet on it. Not who's going to win, but who makes sense for the odds to bet on it. Because what I want is I want the fan who watches my stream, if he chooses to bet on what I'm betting on, to have a chance to win. I don't want it to be like, oh, wait a minute, Thorin said IG would win this game, and then it's just because I'm a rookie fan. Like, no, if IG, by the way, it just happened. If IG plays against like fucking anyone's legend, I'm going to bet on anyone's legend for that one probably. You know what I mean? Or something like that. Like on paper, that is who should win the game. But I'll tell you what, one of the things that I've found really interesting is when you actually look at, where was I going with this angle? It's like, where was I going on that one? Doing the betting angle. Oh, that's right. I know where I'm going. Right. One of the reasons why, like, if you asked me just personally, my own, like, to bet on the game, look, I probably wouldn't bet on top esports to do well at Worlds because I do think I've seen too many times this court of players and even some of the individual players have failed. But I'll tell you what, if we're doing the narrative and we're doing the storyline part, same as with the GenG one, you have to be fair to them. Yeah, okay, they've bombed the last playoffs. Completely. They completely bombed the last ones. Remember, they didn't even get to play IG in the low bracket pro. They were way earlier than the any business.
World Elite. They lost to WE.
Yep.
They lost to Monkey, who is really good, but they lost to Monkey as top esports.
Then you factor in, because of the first stand failure, people don't want to see them at the inside. Yeah, but here's the problem. You can't actually punish them for what happened in the past. You have to each time allow for the possibility that they might actually do what anyone's legend and Tarzan did. They might actually get over it this time. This might be the split where suddenly, Yamato, we don't have this conversation. Suddenly, maybe this is the split where they actually just win the entire upper record, just win the LPL, and then they go to Worlds. You know what? Listen, they don't have to win Worlds. Maybe this time they have a good performance and they come semi-final, though. You know what I mean? They do like something akin to what like the fucking good teams have done in the past. Like, yeah, the reason you have to set that up is one, it is a different team with Hong. That's it. I agree. Look, on paper, I think Crisp's a better player, obviously, historically. But right now, Hong works better for TS. Actually, by the way, low-key, I think fucking, what is his name? Homo cooked with that trade. Like, that's kind of a sleeper trade where he did what he wanted and he got it in and it worked. And then also, maybe there is a world where Jackie Love and Cream choke every time. I don't know if that's the world we live in, though, mate. Maybe this is the one time they get it together and they win. Maybe suddenly then next year it's not an issue and we do the monkeys off their back and all that jazz. It could be, right? I mean, the joke here would be in the LPL. Everyone needs the monkey off their back. That one fucking player, Monkey in Team WE, is like a fucking... He's like the opposite of a match fixer. He ruins all the normal bets. Like, he just fucking... He's just a demon, isn't he? He's like just a solo queue demon. I don't even think he's a top jungler, but I tell you what, he does win some fucking games, mate. But anyway, that is all to say, I think that top esports, when you watch their best games, you can't be overly cynical and just go, who cares? They won't do it anyway. You have to actually consider that they might win the LPL and that they might even do a run at Worlds. Like this team, the ups are good enough, mate. The ups are good enough. And listen, I'll be there with everyone going, fuck top esports if they fail and they choke. But I have to let them get to that point. I can't judge them before they had the game, mate. You know what I mean? Because I won't go as far as saying it's totally different. But they're winning me over, Yamato. They do, every time they win a big series, they sort of do win me over a bit more. They build up that bank account credit of like, I have to give it a possibility you could still win. Don't you think so?
I think with this split, how it has played out, it's like their score is what right now? Let me just pull it up.
It's really good, mate.
It's like they're 11-2.
Exactly.
Like, that's considering the opposition and the opponents. It's really legit. I think this split has been really, really good for them. They did the support swap and it's been working out. And at the same time, it's like if I just look at, we did so in the first run of Top Esports where they won Winter Split. We praised the coaching staff and how they played out the fearless and how they came out ahead of certain deficits and they came back in games. It's like this is the moment for Home to cook. Like he has a reputation, and he has a lot of pedigree. It's like this is definitely one of those situations where, based on everything that is going on around them too, with the other teams having some flaws, like top esports, can come into the World Championship with some good form. I do think that it was the same as the conversation around Tarzan in terms of like choking internationals. Like the context was just like removed from that completely because
Yes.
he was on Weibo, which he played fine. I think I didn't think he played bad. And then on LNG, like that was like the one series where I think you could say that he choked. Maybe you can also extrapolate and put that on Tarzan and Scout in some of those playoffs runs after they were like first and second in regular split and they didn't do anything in playoffs before the Zika Gala run. But in the end, it's like they were playing on rosters that weren't meant to achieve anything because none of those players I even remember if I think back to some of those earlier LNG rosters. So I think in the same context with top esports, I do have an eye on Jackie Love in terms of that performance. But even this is a player that has performed well internationally in the past. So there is capacity for it. And I think that's the crucial detail. Is like we talk about potential, and also they've shown that they can fulfill that. Now is just the third step of executing and pushing that on the finish line. Like if we just in a different universe, let's say we were hyped about the IG roster in winter. They lost to NIP. It was pretty terrible. Let's say there's a world where IG didn't get better, and then we would be, and they would just be bad now in this split too. Then we wouldn't be sitting here coping about IG. They have this roster that's really, really good. No, they have actually like fulfilled a lot of the steps, and they just need to make the last final jump, which they've failed in the past. But we need to recognize there's a lot of teams that don't even get up to that step where they have to make that jump. So I'm with you. Like I'm gonna allow myself get to side about top esports. I'm gonna let it happen.
Also, remember, this playoff format is different from the last years of the LPL. We don't have that one anymore where you play the outside ones, then there's that top fours. And the whole thing's double elim now. So since they're the ascent groups and all of them qualify, bro, this is also going to be like an amazing LPL bracket. Like, if you think even 2 weeks ago how messy some of the squads look, bro, it looks amazing now. Like, the top four are going to absolutely fucking cook this bracket. Like, the double elim part makes it so sexy too. Because the reason why, if people don't know, the reason why in Counter-Strike I hated that the majors are single elimination is because you just get less matchups. So you'll never know, like, oh, what if those two teams would be on the same side of the bracket though? How would they have gone? You get that if you get the low bracket. Like, if I look at this one here, as much as you battle and jockey for position to go into the playoffs, mate, the low bracket's where you're going to do half your work as well, because in the low bracket you might have to play top esports or IG or suddenly BLG's there. Like that this looks like it could really be one of the best playoffs ever in the LPL, mate. It looks amazing. I think it looks stacked as fuck.
Yes, sir. I like we focus so much on the top four, but like a WBG, a Weibo Gaming, like they have a roster
They
where
can make you work,
really
mate.
they can make you work. It's like Breathe has been looking like very disgusting in terms of his individual play recently, but that is something that can shift between weeks. A team like WE, they've been taking single games from so many teams. They managed to do it in Spring Split too, where this is the type of team. It's like they have the capacity to take a win if they let you. In a lot of other regions, there are teams that are never going to take a win, even on your worst day, because they just can't even fathom like the idea of doing so. Like I don't know how many teams that have been close to beating G2, but it just never felt close at all historically. When it was like, oh, you might be like, oh, you're 2-0 down, but does it really matter? Like you're not gonna be able to push it over the finish line. And in that moment, everybody knew. It's like everyone knew the reverse sweep was coming against the BDS or something. But here in LPO, I think there's a lot of teams that just have the.
Here's the thing, Yamato.
Push through.
At one team I am biased against. I refuse to give JDG one fucking iota of praise because that lineup is so brilliant. But if you skip past them, the other team that if you don't watch the LPL, you are going to think, why are you bringing them up, is WE. Because WE, you remember, were the benefactors of last split. They were the ones that were right there at fourth. They were right behind IG. They were ahead of some of these big dogs that you say, top esports beating them. Mate, even though they've only won 2 series out of 12, Yamato, in those 12 series, they only won 2 of them. They've won 13 games. Like, that is absurd that you've won so few series. But that means you just win a game every series almost. That's fucking nuts, bro. That's going to be the most dangerous 2-10 team probably ever to play League of Legends. Like, that's ridiculous, isn't it? Like, because what it means is, like, as we're saying here, if you're one of those big dogs and you look past WE, they might suddenly have you on game 5 in like a big playoff series and you'll be fucking pepper sweating.
They are like they are so freaky. They are so unique.
Oh,
As a
what do you
team.
think of this player, by the way? The one I referred to. The monkey guy is just a fucking really nuts player, and he's what a bizarre player.
I remember the opening game he played on EDG because he like subbed in and he just played Graves and he did the craziest shit that I've ever seen anyone do on Graves. So that's like where his background is from. Like his background is basically he was like a Milky Way-esque player that reshaped himself into just becoming the Skarner guy. Because after the EDG times, he went on Bilibili Academy. And imagine there's a world where Monkey played for Bilibili now. That would be
fucking
insane.
spicy, yeah.
that would be insane.
Absolutely.
Because I do think it's like there's some games where Monkey literally just like 1v9s. It's like if you haven't seen a single Monkey game, just pull up his 2 Olaf games that he played in recent times.
Yes.
And he did nasty things where, oh, I know you're gonna play Renata and it's gonna be a shit matchup for you, but pick it for me and I'm gonna carry the game. Pick Shen for me as well. They did this freaky strategy where they laned Shen and support Shen and Renata, and they let Yunara go top to lane the 1v1 against the Gnar. And that was like a genius strategy. So it's like, this is a team that can get really, really weird. And they take pride in being like a lower end team because they keep coming at you. They understand their flaws. They understand their strengths, which I think is super cool to see. Like they don't try to be anything else. They don't try to like copy anyone. They are just extremely weird because in the end, it's like, this is a team that requires very unique preparation and unique bans because like you have to ban like Sion, Trundle, and Skarner. Like that's not the ban line that you do against anybody else. It's only against WE. Because if you let them play like a good Olaf angle, good Skarner angle with a tank top, then this is the type of team that can take a win because their carries like Taeyun also has like pop-off games on his Kais and his Koki. Like this is a good team. This is a good team.
No, I totally agree on that as well. I actually think that's the part people miss is like they just don't have the sexy big names is the problem. Like people like Taeyun, to some people maybe are a meme. Like he's actually not a bad player, mate. Like he shows some. I know the vampire guy people were always laughing at. Like, listen, he still isn't that good in my opinion, but whatever. They make it work. I know what you mean. The thing about this team is they have a really weird sort of profile to them. Like they don't seem like the team. Put it this way, they're not the team that because they're a lower team you just look past. If anything, you have to put extra homework in on this fucking squad. Because I agree. I know the game you talked about. I think it was the one against BLG, right? I think she was against when they had Shadow. Like he fucking smurfed that game, man. Like he was the reason they won that one. Yeah.
I think it's a good like a decent comparison would be like I remember there was this UFC fighter who barely got any fights because nobody wanted to fight against him. I think his name was Ryan Hall, and the only thing that he did was like a Kimura roll. He grabbed your leg and cranked it, and everyone knew it was coming, but he was just so good at doing it. Everyone knew it was coming. But nobody wanted to fight him, and he was such a boring fighter that he just wasn't a part of the roster anymore at some point. Oh. And basically their Skarner draft and their Olaf drafted him doing the Kimura rule, and it's like I think everyone hates coming up against it. Luckily, there's no fearless in fucking UFC. Like one round you do a move, you can't do it again, you know. So at least there are some bans and fearless that you can throw the way of WE, but they can get weird, they can get dangerous, and they already have proven the concept. They beat top esports for crying out loud in 5 games, so they definitely is a team that have the capacity of doing damage. But a team like FPX, fuck those guys. They are not doing shit.
Okay, that team cares. I know.
Well, you guys want to get looped in, or the teams are not going to do shit? FPX ain't doing shit. I think a team like EDG, a team like NIP,
FPX
better
could
than
even
FPX.
lose to the law. Sadly, they won't play them, but they could even lose to the law team. I agree with you. Yeah, like actually, sadly, the real team that's probably been slept on because we don't watch the law group is EDG actually. Because if people don't know, people probably thought like damn one that NIP should just run that group. I mean, EDG's actually been very good in that one. The problem is you just don't see them play the good teams, so we don't have any idea how good they actually are. But a couple of their players definitely have pop-off potential.
Oh, the qualification matches will be like interesting. Like the EDG and the NIP round is going to be nice because in terms of like how the seeding works, like maybe there's a world where like an FPX doesn't make it through because of their standing. So I borderline hope that that's going to be the case.
Wait there 1 second. I just have to grab something.
Just to loop everybody in, you know, in terms of what the rules are. It's like there's going to be 8 teams that qualify to playoffs with a double elimination, right? And then the 4 bottom teams of the top group is going to play against the top 4 of the bottom. And at EDG and IP are definitely 2 teams that can beat an FPX, and those matchups are going to be spicy. I don't imagine a world where like a Weibo Gaming is going to lose. Or like, let's
Oh,
say,
no.
even JDG. I don't think they are going to lose if they're playing against like a LGD or
Here's the
Neutral
thing,
Prime.
I'll never totally put it past this JDG though. This JDG has something special, mate. I mean, by the way, if people don't know, the real reason I'm pissed off at JDG is because it looks like they just sabotaged it from internally. Like they just made the roster worse, fired the coach, now they just end up with like nothing. And the worst part of it all, Yamato, you know this as well, is mate, the jungler and the AD carry are still fucking good. They have games where they look like they should be in a team that's in the top 4 going for like worlds and stuff, but instead they're saddled with this team that's fucking terrible. And unfortunately, we talked about it many weeks, but like every single 2 weeks, it feels like it gets worse for fucking Scout, mate. It's gone really low now. It's actually sad. I never expected this player to have like a player like this in his career. He always had a very good floor to his game, I thought.
Oh, it's just he's the regular season GOAT, you know. Like if you only look at regular season, there's very few players that have the same like volume of play. Like this has been one of the biggest falls from grace that I've ever seen. And when somebody's performing like this, it must be like that. External factors just affect them too much.
Pretty sweet. People don't want to bring this in, but he has had. It wasn't just before MSI guys, like First Stand or whatever it was. This guy has had that real thing where he's got all sorts of like his future at the end of this season is going to be really messy, mate. He's got all these fucking lawsuits and issues of where can he go. And by the way, the fact he's playing like shit also is going to put pressure on him. Like, does he get to stay in JDG? Is he going to go elsewhere? I could totally imagine that swirling around and getting in your head. It's not like he is human after all. Like he's infected by things like that. Yeah.
Oh, it's just like large sums of money. Like we thought like is JDG escaping CV Max or is CV Max escaping JDG? And he went and joined D+, so I don't know how much better it is.
Watch that one, yeah, exactly. That's what we call out of the frying pan into the fire in English, exactly. I don't know if that's better, mate. I don't actually know. You pick. Sophie's choice.
But if anybody out there is just didn't watch Scout games and they want to know where Scout is at, watch his game 3, JDG versus Billy, and you'll probably see one of the worst Aurora performances comparable to some of the mid laners in the lower group. Like he just drops a 1-9 Aurora game where he just dies in the most weird ways possible. This is a player that is not like in the right state of mind in terms of performance. There's no way. Like I think if you freeze him and he didn't practice for 6 months and you just drop him in the server, like he's not going to be that far away from like playing a decent game at least, because it's Scout after all. Scout. Like he should have had the same trajectory as my boy Tarzan again after the EDG thing, you know?
If I had to predict, here's the good news if you Scout. JDG's basically irrelevant now. You're not going to make a run in the playoffs. You're not going to go to Worlds. Your season's going to be over, by the way, in like 4 weeks or a month or something. The good news is you go away, get your head together, figure out what's happening. Are you staying on JDG? Are they making a new roster? Are you going elsewhere? But here's the difference. I agree with you. I do think a lot of coaches and GMs will have a similar vibe to ours, which is that he has built up a bank account of credit for all those years and all those times he was good on bad teams or he was the stable one. I think there's plenty of teams that'll still take a chance on this guy, but he has to just understand it's go next for next year now, mate. Like, you're not going to turn this year around. I'm sorry. Like, whatever's happening to you, it's just been too consistently bad at this point in time. I can take the odd game, because here's what's weird. This is why I also feel like it's psychological, Yamato. Because like I say, he will still, even this split, every now and then fuck around and have a good game. But it's just random. The good game is what's random now. Before, it felt like a bad game was random. Now the good game is the random one. So to me, in a way, you have to just wipe this year. This year is just the most forgettable one ever if you Scout. Forget about it, mate. It didn't happen for you. Go next. But I tell you what, you could still bounce back next year and be a great player. I totally believe it.
I wonder if like the main thing that is weighing on him, like considering everything is tied to finances, that if for some reason coming into next year he needs to renegotiate the contract, like this year has tanked the shit out of his value. Of course,
yeah.
Like this he went from probably one of the most like best played players up there, like right below the Knights and the Bins, to now, being a player that like you have to view. He needs to rebuild that credit again. Like for sure, he can come in next year and be great again, but I don't think he's getting the same dollar amount. That's just not gonna happen. And I wanted to be in a world where I wanted to, at the end of this year, imagine a world where maybe he goes back to the LCK and they build a roster like that. But even that just seems borderline far-fetched as well, considering like the mid lane pool is still so damn stacked and competitive.
No, I'm with you because the other reason I really hoped he would also go back to Korea is he's got enough years left potentially in his like prime of like being really good that he could actually make Korea even more stacked. Like again, listen, they're doing terribly now, but you can't delete that for the first part of the year. Noxian was good, mate. I look at that team, I'm like, mate, if I could put the real scout from past years in that team, we can fucking cook. Like we got Lens there, we got some good players, mate. So I agree. The problem is, as of right now, who the fuck would sign him in the LCK? It looks terrible, right? If anything, I think he's probably just going to stay in the LPL the next year or two. He's going to have to go. If it's not this team, he's going to, because here's the real problem with the LPL. The good news if you scout is this: the LPL is one of the craziest leagues for all the stars just swapping teams in the off season. Like this isn't like T1 and Chovy where like you just fucking the same player just stays in mid lane for like 5 years. Like these guys swap every 2 years. It feels like. In fact, it feels like almost everyone's been in every team at this point in time. And by the way, think of some of the other teams we were discussing before. No one even knows where Knight will be. Maybe Knight will go somewhere. By the way, if IG ends up not doing well, maybe they change this roster up and break it up or something. Like there's so many spots you could end up in just from happenstance, just from the way the other parts of the league play out. Now, speaking of changing jerseys, wearing different apparel, different look, turning it around, what about Into the Air? That's a brilliant brand, isn't it? It's not to do with the LPL, but then again, it's just excellent, isn't it? This is an Into the Air t-shirt. This is actually one, I don't know if this is for sale right now, but it might be upcoming. This is actually for the Four Horsemen. It's like a knight with a big fuck off dragon. He's like battling there. It's pretty hard. It's pretty metal. It's pretty good in it. There you go. Some D&D type shit for all y'all nerd motherfuckers playing Babby's little wizard game or whatever. Daughter Junior, whatever, Fisher Price Junior, whatever. Anyway, as you can imagine, not only is Into the Air sponsoring this podcast, but good news, they always do it when we have sales coming up. So even though they have the classic one anyway, where if you use our code intotheam.com/LFN, you get 10% off everything on their website, and it stacks, they also have a sale. So they have a Labor Day sale coming up where items are up to 50% off site-wide until the 7th of September. So you've still got a decent amount of time to browse and check out all the different stuff. They've got loads of print t-shirts, loads of plain t-shirts. By the way, the quality of these shirts is fucking amazing. They have some collab shirts, except if you notice our collabs at the moment, we don't like put our big blazer. We're starting off like gradual ones where it's like some of our imagery, there's a pirate one we have where it's a ghost. We're just gradually working with them to build it up. And also we want it to look like you could wear that shirt to like just a concert. It doesn't have to be like, oh, it's some weird esports shit. No, it's just a cool t-shirt, mate, with a knight on the back. So they have all sorts of dope stuff that if you check the sites, loads of it's on sale. And as usual, also the 10% off stacks with if you get the bundles. So if you get the bundle of the print shirts, it's like $62 for 3, I think. If you get the plain ones, it's like $50-something for 3. That'll also get 10% off extra if you use intotheam.com/LFN. So until the 7th of September, they have their Labor Day sale running, which is some American shit. And it's up to 50% off, plus our 10%. So stack all your deals together, get some great apparel. I actually think genuinely, I'm not even joking, if Into the Aim never sponsor this show ever again, I will still buy some Into the Aim stuff with my own hard-earned money. Debatable how hard earned. Depends whether you think I'm a fraud or not. Basically, am I scout or not? Used to be awesome. Now maybe I'm just a bum ass fraud who maybe I'll change jersey. Maybe I'll be on cheap esports next year. That's a joke in all regards. And so cheap esports. Anyway, thank you to the TM. Now let's go on. I'll tell you what. We are going to do it because there's no LEC because it's happening right now. We're going to talk about. I can't even believe I'm going to do this. You know what, Yamato? On the one hand, congratulations to the LTA. You are making me talk about more than just those 4 teams. I'm not only talking about those ones. In fact, I'd even gotten at one point, I was going to talk about 2 teams only. Now I'm going to talk again about the 4 teams. You know what? 100 Thieves. We could talk about this. We could talk about some of these games, mate.
Yeah.
Disguised Toast beat fucking Dignitas. Kind of a big
Pretty
deal.
big.
Like, Disguised Toast on paper should be the worst team. They're like just a fucking streamer team. They don't have loads of money. They don't have big names. They've got a scoffed roster. These 2 matches, listen, I wouldn't tell anyone these are the games of the week. You got to watch these matches. If you didn't miss them, don't worry about it. We'll talk about them now. But I'll tell you what, they were better than I expected, actually. These weren't terrible. So which one do you want to pick to start with, Yamato?
I guess we can start with 100 Thieves because I thought their fall off after winter was so strange.
Sad, isn't it?
So I remember us talking about 100 Thieves, being excited about 100 Thieves. Like, damn, look, Fearless.
Yeah.
Fearless is good for them. They have that youthfulness about them, in terms of just how they approach the game. They're very collective. And then, damn, they finally have an ADC, FBI, And then we had the fall off in spring. It was just so absurd to see them play so poorly. And zooming out now, the fact that they benched, of course, Sniper to bring in his coach, to
Bro, this is the meme I used to do as a joke, Yamato. You know when Soaz first started coaching, funnily enough, he actually coached Dorkler himself. When Soaz was the coach, I always used to joke. The temptation, though, must be crazy to just be like, you know what, get the fuck out the way, let me sit down, like, because you're Soaz, like, Dorkler actually did it. He actually was like, you know what, kid, just fucking give it here, like. And now he's winning the game too. If you're Sniper, you're just so fucked right now. It's bad.
Well, maybe that's just the connection.
I love it. It's toxic as fuck. I love it.
Maybe that's how Dokla got better under Soaz, is that he threatened that he would play and do it better. Right. And then the Dokla did the same to Sniper, but Sniper didn't get better.
I know. That's what I love is it's just so toxic, the idea about it. You insert yourself, then you win the series and just turn to the kid like, that's how you do it. Like, bro, give me a break. Like,
it's just... it's cool to see because it's like it's not like he's playing super well individual mechanically. That's not what it comes down to. It's just he's stable and in tune with game ideas.
Yeah.
And these seem to be something that Sniper could never learn. Like
no,
especially like last year. Like last year, he was like a rookie. We kind of accepted it because the 100 Thieves was like kind of a wonky team, and it was like, oh, they get like every time the whole discussion was like, oh, lane swap against Sniper, and he was going to be lost on the map, and it was so true. And they managed to beat C9 in the end, made Worlds, which was a fluke in my opinion. But at least you'd hope that a player like Sniper would have some level of progression, but it just kind of stayed the same. And you don't know if it's because of Sniper or maybe the coaching staff is just not enough or like have the capacity to help him. But they added Dokla for the purpose of him getting better, and it just didn't happen. And now that you just have a stable presence, I feel like the truth.
He definitely plays like a vet, doesn't he? He has the old man game too. I know what you mean.
It's basically like the angle is like why I push why Fnatic should have Wunder. It's like I don't think Wunder is going to be like mechanically better than Oscarin right away, but he's going to be in tune with the game idea. He's going to let the people pave the way, and he's going to not be a liability. And I feel like the Okla is the same here.
If you notice, by the way, I have the same take. I don't pick Wunder. I always say Otto Amner should just come out of retirement. It's the same thing though. It's the idea that like they're not even going to walk in the room like I'm the guy. It's like I'm here to just win. What do you need? I'll do it for you. There you go. Problem solved.
And then it's just now, like we finally got to see like River and Quid in action again. They are just back in action. FBI did like the thing where he's just playing mechanically, but we see the River and Quid duo that have played together for so long actually like dominate the game. Like that Jav and Galio, they're playing together again, and it's refreshing to see. I feel like Under Thieves is coming back with this Dokla change.
I can't believe I'm actually going to say this, but I watched the series. I have to. Bro, here's what actually has gotten me hyped about 100 Thieves winning that way. Is, mate, when I look right now, and obviously they're now going against Team Liquid, and remember, whoever loses here, you fuck, that's it. No Worlds, go home, end of the year for you. Bro, there's a world 100 Thieves can win this match against Team Liquid. I mean, you even just said it. Think of the two players that are good on 100 Thieves. They play right into the weakness of fucking Team Liquid right now. Like, I think that's going to be a fucking nervy series, mate. I'm on both sides. That's what we call squeaky bomb territory in England, mate. That could get tense. You know what I mean?
It could get very toasty. It's going to be like an arms race, Core JJ, Yeon versus the enemy mid jungle, in terms of what they can achieve. It actually, this series, it did breathe some potential into that best of five. Because I thought the same way that, we're skipping LTA until, like Shopify Rebellion lose against Fly or whatever, Exactly. Like, I thought it's over, Like, I'm happy that I took a little peek at the series. I watched them half baked, not baked, but like half-assed. I don't bake. Okay. Those times have passed me. I get too paranoid. But you get what I'm trying to say. I was already like a half asleep, watching them because we had LCK that same morning at 8 a.m. I'm not gonna be full force for the 2 a.m. series. The other one, this guy's toast. I have to say, I like Castle and Rahel. They've always been like good. But okay. I think it's cool that this guy's toast actually managed to do, like in terms of like roster decisions. They've actually like made upgrades along the way from where they were.
For me, it's completely out. Like again, when I hear, I'm so old school and such a boomer, Yamato, that when I hear Darkwings, I was like, Darkwings Jax. He's playing like no, just some random kid called Darkwings, mate. Like I've never heard of him my entire life. Apparently, he's 25 years old. He's played in a million teams. You just don't know any of them. Like, who is this guy, bro? Literally, last year he was playing in a team called Pulse Gooners. Spelled goon, Gooner. Like, he basically played in a team called Pulse Wankers. Pulse, I rubbed my own dick. And then now he is literally playing and beating Dignitas. Look, I understand a lot of that's more fuck Dignitas, but even so, yeah, where did this is a bold fucking pickup, man. Who the fuck's this guy?
Oh, bro, I liked how ambitious they were. You know, it's just I know we are skipping EU, but the fact that SK took Abadage from them and gave them Rahel.
It's hilarious, isn't it? I know.
What the hell?
A trade. What the fuck is that?
That is
By the way,
just...
I'm with you. I think one of the biggest mysteries ever in LEC is what the fuck happened with Rahel and SK. Because for me, he was like the best part of the team. He was really fucking. He actually looked good. And then what's weird is they kicked him out of the team. Like, what? What's going on here? Because I don't get. There's certain players just slip through the cracks, you know. But this guy's good. He's a good player.
Yeah. I thought this series stepped up. You know, and the next one, it's like I don't think they're gonna do much, but already like beating Dig, I think is formidable. It's like we had that history of like this guy's, you know, versus Dig. There was like some beef there. XU always trash talk Dignitas in terms of how the org is ran, and now it's like looking at Dig's history now in the LEC. It's like it's up there with the TSMs because. Now it's like they got rid of SRTT as well. Like they got rid of him, and like they there's so much drama circling around this team where anyone who leaves the org just fucking hates the org. And Photon did this interview where he just stated, "It's like, yeah, I joined the team, but instantly from day one, the environment was completely depressed. I didn't know what to do." It's like, Jesus, bro. Like, where's the PR training on these guys? You just have teams, players within the org just trashing the org. Like, it's just crazy.
Also, what a fucking cursed career that guy's had too, Photon.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, clearly a talent, but like fucking now we're just losing lower bracket first round matchups to disguised thought. Mate, you're going to be back in Brazil or something. It's not going to work. This is just sad because sadly that guy's had so many chances that I don't think people believe in him. I don't get it though because I've always thought again. There's clearly the eye test to me has always said there's a talent to that guy. He is a good player on some level, but he has a cursed career, bro. Fucking hell, can't get a break.
Yeah, I remember being told the stories of how it was in Vitality because it's like in regular splits, he was like by far the best top player.
He was a monster.
But then when it came to playoffs, like I heard from many different directions that he just couldn't handle like the stress and the pressure of it.
Right.
But in the end, like even in this series, I didn't necessarily think that he like stood out as a problem. I just think Castle is a fucking good player. Like I don't know how Castle has ended up on this team for the longest time, but I think Castle's like a very, very solid player and like he's kind of like Summit 2.0, which is cool, just a very strong laner. And I don't think Photon would ever be like doing anything to like carry a series through Castle. I don't think that was like possible ever really.
Right, here's the thing though. Unfortunately, let me just check something a second. Oh no, they are both this weekend. That's good. Okay. Right. Obviously, as I say, that TL 100 Thieves one's coming up, right? The real question I have is this. For all the nice things you just said about Disguised Toast, do they have a shot against C9?
No.
Because listen, C9's shown some flaws, so no chance.
I think no chance at all. Like Shopify Rebellions, at least, you know, I do think that they just okay, they still have like some experience there, you know. They have experience there. They have the right players. They have had players that have peaked very high. Like B-Boy performed super good.
Yeah.
I can't say the same for this guy's Toast. Like already the Dig win, I think is a really, you know, a big plus. But I just can't imagine a world where C9 lose against this guy's Toast. Like just you mentioned the name Dark Wings. It's like goofy to have, and he played on Gooners. Like playing on a team called Disguised Toast is also goofy, you know. Like it's just like it just can't happen. Like I can't imagine C9 even if they scrim these guys that even dropped a game. Like that's the distance I feel like there is between these two teams.
Players are too good, mate. Come on, like surely their solo lane is just clap this series. Come on.
Yeah. I think the easiest 3-0 ever. Like it should like them dropping a game should be a massive embarrassment. Because Dom is there in person right now. Like Dom is there in person with C9. He's coaching the team, and they're about to lose against this guy's Toast. I don't know if Dom is gonna survive that.
By the way, Yamato, I'm sure you've seen this as well. It's actually insane how like Dom is magnetic to the shittiest people on the internet, because ever since fans found out Dom like works with the team as an analyst behind the scenes, I'm sure you've seen this. There are people desperately, constantly trying to like message me and Yamato and put comments on YouTube like, how about Dom at EWC? How did C9 do at EWC though, Dom? Hey Dom, how'd your friend Dom do? It's like, you know what? One, we aren't Dom. Two, we're not his secretary. We're not going to pass the message along. And three, mate, you are hated on him worse than anyone ever hated on Faker or Chovy. Like, bro, you're just so horny for him to lose some matches. Like, you know, he's not playing. He's just the coach. Like, he just gives him some advice. Like, you're acting like he himself does a door clinch, jumps in the game and starts playing. Like, he's letting fucking Blabber play the games, boys.
The funniest thing, you know, about the whole EWC thing, because that was exactly when 2 weeks, 3 weeks he took a hiatus from the coaching because he was co-streaming MSI he was co-streaming MSI at Canada.
Right,
so it's like
sense.
it was always like you knew it was the international fans because they didn't watch LCA. They just saw C9 at EWC and like, Dom.
Yes. Even though I know what you mean, because actually by that logic, he should get props, because when he was coaching, they looked awesome, mate. They almost beat FlyQuest. Yeah, you're right. If anything, it's the other way around, isn't it? Yeah.
100%.
Fucking hell.
So it's like he's on location. I don't know if Dom's gonna stay through the entire playoffs, because it's like he's now there during the period before they play against this guy's toast. You know, that's not where you want the Dom stimuli. You know, you need to leave it for the big games. You know, because I'm sure for Dom, coaching in person must just feel like so empowering. You know, it's like you get to connect with the guys, you get to talk with the guys. It's like things just stick a little bit heavier, you know, when you're talking in person. So I'm happy that he has
obviously he has to avoid the pitfalls. Like when he's there in person, if the players are all talking and, you know, they're trying to pump each other up, like, guys, our roster, we're just too good to fail to go to Worlds. Tom's over there, pepper sweating. Yeah, imagine that. Imagine being too good to fail to go to fucking ETA, he'd be like that famous gif for that dog looking at those cupcakes thinking of Vietnam or whatever. Like, because I always say the craziest shit about Dom's career, Yamato, is remember, it used to famously be like it is now. You just had to finish top 3 in summer to make Worlds. The one time his team was top 3 was when the format didn't qualify into Worlds. And you had to play a regional on top of it. It's like, he can't get a break, mate. He was like 4th a million times. Then the 1 year, it's like, you're third now. It's like, the third does not qualify this time to Worlds. Sound brilliant. Well,
was this against High in the jungle? They lost.
Yes, that was the one. Yeah, that's the tragedy of it all, because, bro, I'm telling you, people forget this. That actual split, the one where they had Piglet and Phoenix and all this, that was a really stacked like roster. That was the one where they used to mechanically just wreck everyone in the league. Like, they were actually supposed to, by the way, win that split. Never mind just go to Worlds. Like, on paper, they were going to win the whole LCS. So, we're doing a little tangent about Dom here, but people do forget, because I don't know if you know this, but for some bizarre reason, there's that guy in like the Spanish community who's like an analyst, Cabra, who always tries to imply like Dom never did anything, was a bomb as a player. It's not true, mate. Like, Dom actually, for real, was actually kind of like a slept-on pro. He was one of the ones where, like, people only really knew him for his streaming persona, but they never gave him a credit as a jungler. But I always said to me, look, he was never the best jungler in the LCS. But there was times where he was, like, the 3rd best or the 4th best. He was, like, a very solid player. And, in fact, if you look at a lot of his squads, there's a reason why they almost go to Worlds. Like, and it's not usually his fault, by the way. It was often, like, you know, a solo laner fucked up, or he actually had some really... By the way, he had Peter Shang, he had some dodgy-ass coaches, in my opinion, too. Like, he didn't have the fucking legendary ones that have all the championships. So, and lastly, I'll just throw this out there. When he played in Curse and Team Liquid, wasn't when it was supposed to be the best team. Like, actually, they were supposed to be 3rd or 4th best, which is pretty much where he was most of his career. People forget, because now Team Liquid, because of Doublelift and Jensen and Core JJ, now you think of Team Liquid as a team that's supposed to win LCS and go to Worlds. People forget back then, if you wanted to win in LCS, you needed to get to TSM or C9. That was it. Like that's step one. And Dom didn't do that. He was one of those people, like a Crumbs, other people who were good players, by the way. They were just slightly on the outskirts of that circle. But no, to bring it all back, one, you're not going to hurt his feelings by going, C9 lost. Like, again, he's just an analyst, guys. By the way, I actually think that's the perfect gig for him. Here's a statement that I think's a banger. What he is doing now is what my mate LS should have done, in my opinion. In my opinion, it was always way too much living the fantasy to think LS could quit all the streaming, all the shit in Korea, and just live in NA and just be an LCS coach. I always told him, mate, that was never going to work long term anyway. It's not you. Like, you would get so bored with that. And one thing I told LS was, you're going to get so sick and tired of shit like dealing with players' egos or having like stupid shit like one of your players gets a girlfriend and then has a breakup and he goes through a bad 2 weeks, but you can't mention it on camera, and now everyone's blaming your draft and you're the reason he didn't get the Baron or some shit. I said what you actually want is what Dom has now, by the way. You want to just be a guy who gets input, but you don't get blamed for it all, and you don't even have to be there. That would be more ideal. Essentially, what you want to do is you see a team you think has potential, you give them your thoughts, you give them some insight, you give them a few things to work with, and then you leave it to them. You don't want all the other shit's the shit that's unsexy about coaching me. Like I just said, it's all the stuff no one knows about, all the hard stuff. You just want to be the guy what you want to do is just have a line where you can sort of call the player and tell him something. That's cool. That feel really rewarding, I could imagine.
That's between you and me. Well, it's not between you and me only, but that's
maybe it is. Maybe no one's listening. Let me know. Shh, no one tell anyone. Shh.
It's like that's the gig that I'm gonna look for coming.
Yeah, you should.
Because I basically also want to just set myself up in a way where I get to go in for 2-3 weeks, do my business, and then work with the coaches more to make sure that they are accountable and that they are pushing the right ideas with the players. Because I just want to put to use all the league that I'm watching, because it's like co-streaming the matches just to co-stream the matches. Sometimes it gets fucking dull and you want to compete. So I'm hoping to put myself in a position where similar to Dom, because he's inspired me for sure. Like that's just the dream gig, I think.
I also don't think fans know at home, Yamato. Like, I've had this experience a tiny bit because, one, there have actually been players, obviously only in Counter-Strike, there have been players I've helped behind the scenes with certain things in the game, or just been really close friends with them that maybe fans don't know that is actually like a mate of mine, this pro player. And what fans will never get is this. They think they know what it's like to feel like engaged because it's their favourite player playing, or they really love the game. Bro, you will never have as strong an emotional connection as when you're part of the process. When you like, actually, that is either literally your friend, or in this case, you get to have input in what they're doing in the game. I know what you mean, Yamato. It's all well and good watching an amazing banger in the LCK. There's something extra about watching an awesome match where you had some sort of input in them winning the game, though, right? There's a reason it's hard to get away from that when you stop being a pro or a coach, right?
100%. It's very, very hard. It sucks you back in. It's extremely addictive, and the fact that it's a team sport, just like seeing, like seeing success through others that you care about deeply, because that's what just naturally happens. I think if you invested in something, I think there's something beautiful in that is like irreplaceable, I feel like.
I reckon we'll do some viewer questions now, yeah? There's no LEC, as I say, it's taking place as we're talking. We'll do that next week. Luckily, it's actually perfect for us, though, because next week's episode, we can just adjust that, and there wasn't any on the weekend, so it's not like we're missing 2 weeks, we're just missing the 1 week. Okay, we'll do a quick break, we'll come back, and then we will answer questions from our viewers.
Sounds good.
Final section of Summoning Insight is obviously where we are stimulated by questions you formulate in your minds and then submit. How do you submit, you ask? Well, I'm glad you asked that, because it's not via Twitch chat or YouTube comments. You have to subscribe to Last Few Nation Discord. There's a channel in there, SI questions. Just put your question in there. If you don't want us to read your name out, just mention as much and then we won't. Okay, the first question for this one. I might go with some of the more deep ones for this one, because I've skipped a few the last few times, but there's some that are like bigger ones. So let's see. Right, here's a weird one. I'd just be interested in your take on this. So someone called Danny O says, do you think unaffiliated third-party coverage of EWC, like what Yamato did, is actually necessary? In theory, Saudi-funded mega events like EWC can be an amazing thing as long as the sports washing propaganda is combated and it's framed as the best esports event of all time. And then he puts sponsored by an oppressive, human rights violating monarchical regime. Right, first of all, I want to throw it to you, but I'm just going to start here. The idea that someone's going to cover EWC, because here's what I don't get about the framing of the question. What I don't get is, to me, the angle is you either don't work the event and you go on and on about how the human rights violation, you do, that matters more to you, or you work the event and you don't comment on that. You just say, I'm doing it because it's a League of Legends tournament and I care about the League of Legends, so let's talk about League of Legends. He sort of wants you to do it like a hybrid of the two. He wants you to like, because you're not affiliated, you're not paid by them. He wants you essentially to like do the tournament, but like flame them at the same time. That's sort of what his question is, as far as I can tell. So, what do you think of that? What's your take on that?
I kind of did. That's what kind of landed. I like to like I've said this so many times. It's like I work in esports. I know where it's heading, and at some point maybe I stop doing esports altogether because I don't want to be affiliated with what it is, and maybe that's going to be a decision I take in the past. But I understand currently this is the climate, and you know, if there's a world where let's say half of the circuit is in Saudi Arabia at some point, it's like I can't just neglect that aspect of the coverage when I need to keep in interacting with the players playing and the teams playing against each other. Like that's the only aspect I care about. Sure, it removes the idea of sports watching, but it's not like when I did my coverage or I do a review of the game, I'm not sitting there and saying, like, oh, this is AL versus T1 playing. I'm not sitting, they are playing in Canada, in Toronto, or whatever. Like, I'm not sitting there and, hyping up Canada when that tournament happens. I understand when, the ad segments and everything around it and, the tourism it drives and that aspect of it is there. But I've always been very open about my opinion about what Saudi Arabia does and doesn't do. And if at some point they don't want me to costume the event or they have an issue with it, then that's what it is. Like I just will not let anyone buy my silence. Like that's the line I don't want to cross. Like that's never gonna happen because what worth am I as a human being? Then is what I see.
Totally fine answer. Right. Okay. Nadnerb says, if you are Hanwell Life Esports currently and you could make one hypothetical swap to win now, right? He gives us a choice here. Do we want to swap? We can either swap Zeke out for BDD, so mid lane, or we can swap out Peanut for Tarzan. Which would you take? Those are two interesting changes, I'm going to say. But you can only do one, though. Which one do you do to win now?
For me, this one is super, super easy because I still see like glimpses of Zeka, and I think Tarzan's form right now is just too insane. And I think if Tarzan was on this team, I think this team would be absolutely crazy. I think that the main thing that they're lacking is a jungler that is complete as a player. And I think if while they have a lot of issues, I do think that Peanut stands out as the greatest one. And I think the jump of the upgrade from Peanut's form currently to Tarzan is way bigger of a jump than Zeka to BDD.
Here's the problem. I think I'm going to go the other way, but I'll frame it like this. If he means win now, as in win LCK, I might do the BDD one. Because here's the difference. I think if BDD had those teammates, bro, good luck stopping him. There's only Chovy would be better, in my opinion. Look, he looks really fucking good. Like I said, these games he's played the last like month and a half have been unbelievable. He's had some games where it was 1v9. Maybe not in the T1 series, but he's had some that were nuts. But if you want to win Worlds, you probably want Tarzan instead. Because the difference is, Zeke could, like you're saying, have like a throwback Akali game and win it, And I think if you had Tarzan with Zeus and Viper, mate, fucking hell. That sounds gross already. It's a great question, though. I actually think it's a very well-framed question because you could go any angle on that one. I think it's all legit. Right, Big Boy says, with Fearless, it seems like Riot has started to balance around pro play much less. To me, this has meant the meta has become very stale and the same champions have dominated all year. Do you think Fearless should mean that Riot's balance team should focus less on pro play like they are now?
I think it's a question of less of what they should do and more about what they are allowed to do. Because Riot is like limited in the resources. And if they can gain more from their side about making the solo queue experience better, and while in pro play, it's like just so everybody like that is watching understands the challenge of Riot is that they need to ship patches 2 weeks ahead of time. So they need to predict where things are going. And that's why they took such an approach of being very slow with things, especially like last year, where the ADC meta, where they didn't want to kill something completely, but phase it out to a point where it's still playable and still applicable to the point where they were like, well, honestly, nothing we do works, so let's just kill it altogether completely in terms of how they changed the AP jungles and so forth coming into the World Championship. Leading up to that, they tried to nerf AD mid laners time and time again, but it just never worked. And I kind of like that approach. It's like they're trying to find kind of an equilibrium. I do think that sometimes there are glaring things that they could be like lot more aggressive about. It's like we needed how many Varos nerfs to make this champion
sure.
seem like balanced. There's definitely moments where it needs to be hit a little bit harder. And I think there are also success stories. For example, Azir is a champion that was reworked so many times and now finally reach a point where it's viable to play in solo queue and also viable to play in pro play. And I think that they are looking at the metrics of what people actually are spending time on and playing. And they're trying to see, it's like, oh, this is a champion that has a lot of play in solo queue, but people don't enjoy it. And they're trying to, but at the same time, the win ratio isn't there. And I think they just have to go by those metrics. I like the only complaint I would have, because I understand where they're coming from, is, as I mentioned, it's like I just want them to be a little bit more aggressive on the champions that just have 100% presence in the first 3 games or gets banned too often. Pantheon stands out as one, Varo stands out as one, because suddenly you peel those layers away and then you're going to get into a deeper new layer almost instantly. There's certain champions that just kind of dictate everything, but the most recent change with buffing Zyra and Brand again kind of, open up the idea of people playing champs that were viable in the past, which I think is cool. So I do think, all in all, I would say that Riot is doing a good job, but a little bit more aggression on Varos and so forth.
What I'll say about this is I do think it has completely changed the way people talk about League the game, though. Here's the difference. Even when you were in a Reddit thread or a Twitter thread that was about a specific match between two specific teams, it was always a very easy, low-hanging fruit angle to just whine about the game generally. And so instead of whining about, like, why is Zika so OP on Akali, you just whine about Akali being OP and be like, it shouldn't be in the game, or where's the counters or whatever. It's got too many the spell rotations too short. You complain about the game as like a proxy for I feel like actually the one upside of Fearless for me, one thing I will say is almost entirely good, is no one seems to complain about the actual strength of the champions as much now. Now people do just settle into, like, did you draft correctly? Should you have picked that in the first game, or should you have waited? Was this the right comp? So in a weird way, they have sort of stimulated more meaningful actual, like, analysis of the draft. But I also think it's actually disguised, though, that if there are times where the meta is stale or something's OP, look, just because it's only played one time in the series doesn't mean it's not OP. Sure, it means it's not having as big an impact, but I do think, essentially, I like the question, because I do think it's an obvious trap that whether you think they have in the future, they certainly could fall into, which is that if we're having Fearless, there could certainly be a world where, yes, because of Fearless, you have to pick other champions, but there really are, like, 3 comps you should probably try and build if you can, and that becomes obvious at the beginning of every series. In fact, people don't know, I'd actually say, since LS was one of the big people pushing Fearless, that is one of his big complaints. If people don't know, the reason why LS doesn't even just want to stop at Fearless, he wants the Iron Man Fearless, where all the bans carry over, is because he does think that the first games in series are predictable comps, or people have found the winning comps and they just draft those as often as they can. As usual with a lot of LS takes, I think there's something to it, and I think he's got his own angle, but I think he's gone a bit too far. I think the problem with LS takes is part of the showmanship part is being hyperbolic. It's a bit like when I will say a player is shit. Usually I'm talking about, like, fucking Nemesis or something. He's not ever actually shit, is he? I just mean he's shit compared to Chovy at his best if he imagines he could fuck with him. It's hyperbolic. So I do think it's a valid question. I think it's a good question. Right, here's an interesting one. We've got some pretty good questions this week from a lot of the regulars. Milkman22, I like this one, mate. Listen to this. Just sit back and imagine for a second. He says, assuming Na'Vi are willing to spend big money in 2026 after entering the league with a skeleton roster, what do you think of this potential roster in terms of likelihood and roster strength? So essentially, he makes you a little team of players he thinks you could put together. And I'll tell you what, mate, he is sort of cooked, I think. Because if you listen to the players, he's done all the roles. He puts Whippo and Inspired from FlyQuest. By the way, I looked it up. Their contracts do end at the end of this year. He puts Humanoid and Kazi reunion. Now, Humanoid is available. It's only Kazi that's like an extra year in his contract. And then for support, bring back Trimpy from his undeserved Brazil prison. Now, I looked it up. Every player except Kazi does have their contract end at the end of this year. So it's not impossible that you could actually make that roster if you really wanted. What do you think? What do you think of one? Not what do you think Na'Vi will do? And 2, if they were to make a roster like that, look, it's probably a little bit fantastic you get all 5 of those players. But I tell you what, it's not a bad list. What do you think of those 2 angles?
Honestly, I know the profile that is Humanoid. I know Inspired pretty well, Whipple too. I think Whipple and Inspired are the type of personalities that would get the most out of Humanoid. So already from that part, like I'm already bought in, and already those three guys have showcased that they're capable of like being the best in the role. And even though Humanoid, left in flames from Fnatic, we still think, on the right team with the right return, this is a guy that can be still insanely good. Like the next team he joins is gonna be great. So on that part, I'm already kind of in. Kazi, I think he's slowly buying me back. He's really. I'm working with it. I'm working with it. There, I can see the angle. I personally would be like more excitement, maybe for like an ice angle or something, and maybe get like June in and do some a combination like that. Because like Trimby, still that Team Heretics year is a rough one to forget. I know that Trimby has his moments in Brazil because I hear whispers here and there, but all in all, like conceptually, I do think that top side, that's that. If you can get that and they're bought in, I think that's an insane one. I think maybe the bot side we can workshop a little bit more.
If people don't know, since he doesn't even play in the fucking region anymore, I'll just tell people basically what I heard about Trimby. The problem isn't, as people have said, like, he is toxic. Most players aren't toxic like that. I mean, the joke is, without mentioning other names, some of the players you all think are lovely people, as I've shown, are quite toxic themselves. They're literally a corrosive element in a team environment or for people's morale. But the problem Trimby has, based on what I heard, I'd be interested to see if you've heard something similar. It's more to me like, if you've ever seen those voice com videos where he's always talking when he was in Rogue. Do you remember? He would always be saying something, or he's the guy in the team fight just saying the name over and over again, spamming it. Basically, that's basically what I've seen as his problem. One, it's implied that he can get really emotional, so that could sometimes be portrayed as you got too angry or upset or you freaked out over something. But also the thing people told me was it's almost like he can't help himself talking like that, and essentially I think it's just annoying more than toxic. Like people just sort of get like essentially when you lose that's the sort of thing that pisses people off. It's some of those pet peeves of like, oh, shut the fuck up, will you? Or or you're trying to get. Think about backseat driving in Counter-Strike or something. I'm already playing the game. I'm doing the right move. Stop telling me what to do. That you have to be a very special personality to be able to talk all the time, in my opinion, in League. In fact, a lot of players, funny enough, you're probably safer, believe it or not, going the Targamas route and not talking as much than being someone who talks too much. Like most people would prefer a little bit extra silence than slightly too many words. I feel like. Well, have you heard anything similar about Trimby?
I know less of from the gameplay side. I just know that like Trimby's, it's like and you mentioned that some player profiles are like that's what people call toxic, even though like in most of those cases when people like think like an inspired is toxic, it's really just him being very blunt with you.
You're gonna have the right people around him, yeah, of course.
It's just that some players are like more sensitive, like a player like Hilly, like Razork in the past, a player like Trimby. Like they would react more harshly to like a bluntness or like an environment that is like straining and maybe filled with pressure. Some people thrive in a very pressure-filled environment, some people less so. And there's certain players that are very sensitive and need a very specific touch in terms of how you like work with them and how you get the most out of them. Because Trimby has shown very, very high highs. Like we thought that he's going to be like the future of European supports, the person that's going to be next in line after Mickey and Hilly. So obviously it was like to see like the so-called downfall, even though like post Fnatic that era was rough. I do think that there were certain times where this guy was super capable. I think there's just like the growth needed to be on like the human side, because I think in terms of managing the pressure of everyday life and going through the motion, that can be very challenging to people. And I think that's like the other side of the coin. There's people that raise the pressure in the team at all times. Like if everyone's seen Last Dance, but if like there's some people that would fold under that Michael Jordan pressure, doesn't mean that they are like terrible players. Maybe they just need to be in a different like environment,
By the way, I actually do think though that the roster he made. Listen, I'll answer the first part about Na'Vi. I don't think they'll make a roster anything like that. Like, I think what you will see, because here's the thing. Yes, Na'Vi have money. Na'Vi is a big esports club, obviously famously in Counter-Strike from Eastern Europe. But this is something people always miss this detail, Yamato. I'll tell you an angle that always tells me someone knows nothing about having wealth or anyone who has wealth is when a fan will go, hey, such and such. I'll give you an example. You could use Disguised Toast, right? Disguised Toast is a millionaire, I've no doubt, right? Based on his streaming and stuff. He seems like he's pretty successful. So logically, if he really wanted to, he could waste loads of his income and buy a bunch of sick players for his team. He could have like some shit hot mid laner from the RLs and fucking some legendary player could be the support player or something, right? He could do that. But the reason he wouldn't do that, Yamato, is because that's really bad business. Like, actually, if that was his business sense, I don't think he in the first place would be successful at the business of streaming and gotten to where he is. So essentially, people who are rich, by definition, don't waste money. The problem is too many people think of like the wife of a rich guy or the daughter of a rich, maybe they waste the money because they didn't earn it. The guy who earns the millions of dollars tends to be someone who really keeps count of like what he spent. Is this worth it? When do I sacrifice? So first of all, I don't see Na'Vi as a squad that's coming in like the Saudis, like just spend money, lol. I think they're going to go really slowly, year by year, and min-max it. I think what they'll do, as you've seen, is they'll probably sign like, a couple of players, a couple of gambles, and then like the coach will pick, a young player or something. And I think what they'll aim to do, Yamato, is go from like, we're in the league, to, we're a playoff team. I think if to win, that's in like 2 years, that's in 3 years. That's when you get the team to the point where, you are the fifth best team. And then you pick the right season to sign a humanoid when they're coming off a contract, or that's the year you sign some player when he's on his way up who's good, a top player that's shit hot, maybe broke a blade leagues G2, you sign him or so. Then you do. I don't think they're really going to come blasting out the gates and sign the best. I think people are naive, especially because they don't know the League of Legends space. That's the key part. Like, they're not someone who's been around the space a long time. So I think it's a really big mistake on your first entry to spend loads of, like, you know what? As much as people might not like the approach, I think the way Carmine Corp did it is the right way. You start with this is not much of a gamble roster because you already had those players anyway. Then you just decide based on who makes it and doesn't, right? I can upgrade these. Now, maybe you can say they got a bit lucky and they accelerated past and went to the top. But if you think of where they are now, that's actually totally appropriate tracking. You started out as one of the worst. Then you were like all right in the summer last year. Then if you ignore when you won, you're like a top team, but you're maybe not the best. And then let's say maybe this year you make another roster move and you're the best next year. That's really good GMing in my opinion. So I actually don't hate it, but I would say it'd be more like, maybe you get one or two of those players, but then the others are like a couple of ERL players. By the way, pick some other ones. Yeah, again, like a Labrov or someone might be on your team. Depends who's available. Depends who's out there. Again, maybe Oscarinen gets kicked. Maybe Oscarinen's your top lane. I'd temper your expectations, but I don't really think. But sadly, that's like more a roster I'd make if I had the money. But then someone said you have to win in 1 year. That's not really like a long-term prospect, I don't think.
What I would add though is the expectation I do have is that Navi probably will explore how they can incorporate themselves to the ERL system. I wouldn't be surprised if they like partner with some team. I think the tricky thing is that
if people don't know in Counter-Strike, they've had a lot of success from their academy team. Yeah, so maybe they'll do that approach, you think, having an ERL team?
I think it just makes sense. It's like KC, like a big part of their success is the fact that they were in the ERLs for such a long time, and I think there is probably teams that they can find that they can partner with. I think the most difficult part is that they can't there's no league that like Ukraine is a part of or anything like this. So maybe like the connection is not going to be as close because like I understand like the Navi youth is like players that like in CS is just players that are on the country-wise and so forth, which makes the connection deeper. But I wouldn't be surprised if they make a connection with ERL teams. I think we're probably, like we mentioned it on the previous episodes, I believe, when we talked about like how they're going to like maybe shift LEC, like the ERL system to an LEC 2 rather than an ERL system where teams can qualify and they kind of merge together all of the big teams from the ERLs because we noticed that all of the leagues are suffering hard. Like the NLC is suffering, Prime League is suffering, all of these leagues are suffering. And same way like LVP and LFL are kind of suffering. If there's an LEC 2 and Navi has a team there, I think that could be like great for them. But I don't see the other way they would connect to their root fan base otherwise. But I do think the Navi pattern seems to be to just get an ERL team and start, using that as a like just a playground to just make players better and to make them grow and so forth. But I think if you want to make a money move, if one of these changes, like you bring a player like Bwipo, because he's going to make players around them better. Like if you put Bwipo and you have a bunch of rookies around there, and that's your big signing, I think that's something that could like make sense. Like even you can go so far to like be like go to Inspired. It's like we're gonna pay a lot of money We might not win, but you're going to get a lot of money, and the responsibility you have is to nurture these players and to push them forward. I think that's like a very good angle in terms of like investment, if anything.
Right, Bot Pounder 420 says, where does Lehenz's performance against T1 at last year's Worlds rank in the all-time choke jobs? You remember that one? It was pretty brutal. You remember?
Yeah, I remember that tower dive on top. There's as a famous clip, like there's a clip that went viral. I don't want to say famous. Well, of me, what the only reaction I had is like, Lehenz, are you smoking crack? Because there was no other way to view it. He was relentless. I think you can even go so far to say the fifth series before.
Oh, the FlyQuest one. Yeah, that was pretty bad
too. The FlyQuest one.
Yes.
I never expected going into a series and say Busio outperformed the shit out of you, Lens.
Yeah, agreed.
Because that Worlds was just atrocious from the guy. What was the initial question? Because like, what was it?
It was. Where does it rank in the all-time choke jobs?
Oh shit! We need to like the list is tough. The list is tough. I think like we would have to. I don't know if he could beat some of the early like Chinese teams. I think he would like rank right below those guys, you know, like an LGD 2015.
I know what you mean, because the difference is they all bombed the group stage and some of them lost almost every game, you know. But here's what's weird. In a way, I think what actually, to me, in a sense, makes this worse, though, Yamato, is a lot of those choke jobs where the whole team's fucked up on the metals. The reason it's so brutal in this one is, bro, they still only lost in 5 games to T1. Like, they were right there. Like, if he'd have actually, basically, I do think, unfortunately, he is the main reason they didn't actually get, oh, sorry, it's 4 games. He's one of the main reasons they didn't get a chance to go to the finals and maybe win. Like, he did have an amazing fucking squad of players. And remember, he himself was the MVP of MSI. Like, he was a very highly touted player. And that was the GenG that really strongly relied on macro. And a lot of people gave him the credit. Like, a lot of people thought, if you saw how Nongshim played earlier this year, he must be the macro wizard. So I feel like it's rare I've ever seen a player like choke, but in a team that's good and is doing well. And it's just, you have the ultimate spotlight. Like, I do think it reminds me of the previous year when Kanavi did the same shit on fucking JDG, where he was like, bro, you're right there to win everything, and then you just do some crazy ass last int game when he had that fucking Belveth game. We just didn't, because unfortunately everyone is remembering in this series the fucking Maokai game. Like, that one was like, bro, you would think for real, like his mouse had disconnected. It was like, you know, the thing where the champion automatically goes back to base. It was just like autopiloting into the other team. It actually looked for real like he was inting or like win trading. It was nuts. It was really nuts, wasn't it?
Oh, that one was. I'm happy that you brought up Maokai game, because I thought that was way worse than the Belveth game.
It was worse, yeah.
It's just the in regards to Lehens, I think the freaky aspect is what you mentioned. It's like he showcased that he can perform at an MSI finals and pop off completely. So it's just so disconnected from everything. But it just comes back to something that we've mentioned so many times. We mentioned when we talk about IG, T1, it's like the factors that you need to deal with at the World Championship are so unique. And maybe it's a question of like, he's not dealing with the food well, he's not dealing with the travel well, and he has to scrim less. And then suddenly you have like one of the worst individual performances ever. Because like what made it so bad is that it wasn't only in the T1 series, it was also in the FlyQuest series. It was like, it was so terrible through and through with the standard that he set. I think another player that you can put in this conversation is, if anybody is on at
for sure,
on the same way. It's like, came into that World Championship last year and I thought he's going to be brilliant, and then the entire time just wasn't there. And to be honest, that whole world, all the super players were just completely off. Like, they were completely off. There was only one that stood tall, which was Carrier, and everyone was kind of underperforming. The Light had some decent games. We found like some crazy engages, but it seemed like all super just got so used to playing the Warmux armor meta, where they all walked around with 4,000 health and they could do whatever the fuck they wanted in the game, that you just completely lost touch with what it actually means to play good support without having that cushion that to always fall back on, that you regen your HP if you get chunked. You have such a big health bar that you're just unkillable with your Leona with Warmogs. I know everybody who's watching remembers those moments of those supports being unbelievably tanky with 2 Giants built in their inventory. That was removed coming into, of course, the World Championship. So I think it's just a mix of many, many things. But I think Lehens, definitely, that Worlds run, especially like in the playoffs, is landing in some kind of a top list. But I don't have a memory bank big enough to place it.
No, as I say, if you're right, I agree with what you said earlier. The biggest chalk jobs almost certainly are like Tian and Join being the FPX where they came fucking bombed a group where they were like a big favourite. Top Esports where they had like my boy Jackie Love and Knight, etc. I'd have to look up who fucked that one up. Like some of those ones probably should be the big chalk jobs because those are ones where like you finished way below expectations. But if you want one individual player, the reason why, like I say, these ones count is, bro, you just let your team down. Like I was just watching back some of the game while you were talking there. Some of the shit he did was criminal, mate. Like just stuff where like you team fight. But this is why it's so criminal. You're the shot caller. It's like team fights where all the other members of the team fight the other guy while you're the support just fucking up one person. It's like you have to be coordinated. Like how are you? That implies to me either they didn't listen to your call or you didn't make the call. Because that's the one area people might miss as well. If you're the shot caller, oh mate, one of the biggest ways a shot caller can choke is just stop calling shots. It's not to make the wrong call. That's actually one of the weird things. There's a lot of people don't. Tell you what, as much as I might think the Shy is an abusive player, he's always had the balls to pull the trigger, Yamato. He'll always fucking go in. The difference is, the ones that I do get on my nerves are ones like Lehens, where it's like, you either like, just let the game, like I think Tarzan and Scout did this in 2023. You just let the game come to you, so it never does. Like you're just always behind. You're just always waiting to be given a free game. Or in this case, in Lehens' case, he just kept walking into the opponents. Mate, it was nuts. Like he played like he was a frontliner or something. It was nuts. It was fucking. It wasn't it. Let's just say it wasn't it. As the kids say, he did not eat. It was not giving, Yamato. It was not giving. That's enough of white women's TikTok euphemisms. Last question. This is a good one to end on. The Dog says, what current meta champion have you been enjoying to watch recently? There's a wholesome question to end on. What champion do you enjoy at the moment in the meta?
Honestly, I'm like the ADC meta as a whole, I love it when it's in this place. As long as I get to see Kaiser, Zaya, and then you can add Yunara to that pool too. I think Koki is fun too. Like these ADCs that are a lot more dynamic in their play rather than very static and reliant on the setup, where someone can, as like Gala can find like a Kaiser angle to just make something so proactive out of a situation. That to me is always going to be just it's gonna bring me joy. Like I don't have a lot of fun watching like Jin play versus Ashe and Varus 50 times in a row. Give me the mobile, low-range ADCs that can be dynamic in their play, because you get to see 1v1 fights, 2v2 fights. You get to see team fight outplays. I think Kaiser's going to be forever my favorite champion to watch ever. There's too many good Kaiser players.
No, here's how you know, Yamato, like what your real preferences are beyond your biases. Because like now that Larsen's irrelevant, don't really enjoy watching his play that much anymore. It's not really my champion. So I agree with you. I actually do think, by the way, ADC meta is in one of the best places it has ever been. Like, as I said last week, mate, the Yunara champion surprised me. It's kind of a fun champion to watch, actually. That gives me vibes of like Zaya sometimes. I think it's fucking dope. Because I also do think Zaya is like low-key underrated as a champion in League of Legends. That's one of the best designs of any champion ever made in League of Legends, in my opinion. Like, especially the way you get like the continual, you're putting the auto attacks out and you're doing this, but then the fact that like the genius of when you pull the ult, it's fucking, I think that there's so much to that champion that is like, when you see like a Ruler play it, it's fucking amazing to watch. It's so dope. A Viper, these guys are fucking studs. So I actually think that most of the ADC, I agree with you. I think most of them are really good positions right now. And what's great is the balance is nuts. You can still play shit like Jin if you want, or Jinx or whatever. Like, if you got the comp for that, but yeah, those ones are right there. I think those are just very good champions. They're well balanced. They're not super OP. Like actually, Kai'Sa once upon a time was OP as fuck. If you go back in 4 years and you watch Gala on RNG, it's OP as a champion. Like, he wasn't actually as good as a player. Now it's actually quite a well balanced champion. Like, you need skill on that. You need to understand how to use it. But it's awesome when someone pulls it off. Still got all those great qualities to it. Yeah, I'm with you. Fun. Right, that'll be it. Shout out to everyone who watched this week, and obviously all the sponsors. We'll be back next week where we will obviously heavily cover LAC because we'll be going towards the playoffs, and we're wrapping up most of the Asian regions. So see you next week.